It's okay, I missed you.
Zero sugar.
In between.
I think they got bought by Coca-Cola because now it's everywhere. Oh.
It's not overly
Florida's testing.
involved today.
Hey, Lord. Now that Florida's testing all the food, that's going to be gone pretty soon. Finally. Okay, good evening. The date's January 26, 2026, and the time is 6:30 p.m. I hereby call to order the meeting of the Community Redevelopment Agency Board of the City of Groveland, Florida. Sierra, will you please, let's rise for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sierra, would you go ahead and take the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Chair Keith Keough.
Here.
Vice Chair Barbara Gaines. Here. Board Member Stephen Shalkowski.
Here.
Board Member Michael J. Cox.
Here.
Board Member Amy Jo Carroll.
Here.
Board Member Matthew Ballman.
Here.
Board Member Daniel Corsi.
Here.
Commissioner Anthony Sabatini, absent. City Attorney Anita Garassi Carver. Community Development Director Timothy Maslow.
Here.
CIP/CRA Manager Brenda Toscano.
Here.
CRA Consultant Laura Smith. Sergeant at Arms Lieutenant Rucci. And Recording Secretary Sierra Bender here.
Thank you. When we have a quorum, before we go to the consent agenda, do you want to explain our new person sitting here, and so we can do our applause? And
Yes, Mr. Chair, I appreciate that. We're going to request to move the information-only item on the train station restoration depot toward the end of the meeting. We'll move old business up, and we'll just go in that order. This gives some time. We have quite a team assigned for this project. Some of them can't make it until after 7 o'clock, so this should buy them enough time to be here for the presentation.
thank you very much. I think we can all agree to that, correct? So we have everybody here.
Yes, if we're talking about amending the agenda, I would move that be moved. Wow, that's really loud. That we change it from information only to discussion, because I assume the board will probably want to discuss some of the stuff around the depot. And for that to happen the right way, it needs to be under discussion, not just information only, unless we're only asking questions.
Mr. Maslow?
Yeah, I would just defer to the city attorney. I don't believe it's an action item either way, but if it's moved from information only discussion, that allows you to talk about it. We're just not really requesting action or a vote necessarily tonight.
Okay, we have a motion. Any second?
Second.
We just need consent, right?
Since you have a motion, you might as well, and a second,
okay.
you might as well vote.
Motion, discussion, any public comment? Seeing none. Sarah, you want to take the roll?
Yes, sir. Board Member Corsi, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Carroll.
Aye.
Board Member Ballman.
Aye.
Board Member Jaycox. Board Member Shalkowski.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines. And Chair Keough.
Aye. Do you want to introduce our new manager to everybody? Or say
Yeah, there's some hellos to go around, and there's also a goodbye. I was going to save it toward the end of the meeting, but Sierra, this is her last day here working for the city, at least for now, and I just wanted to recognize her and give her a token of appreciation from the city. She was one of the first people that I worked with when joining the city of Groveland back on April 29th of 2019, almost 7 years, believe it or not. But she was a part of our community development team and our administrative assistant at the time. And she's always been a joy to work with, always one of the easiest people to work with at the city, extremely effective. And I just want to thank her for her service here at Groveland and wish her the best of luck with the next chapter of her career.
And thank you for your service.
So for some hellos, I'd like to introduce your new CRA board liaison, Brenda Toscano. She shouldn't be too new to you, but she served as our capital improvements project manager and assistant to the city manager. She's worked on a myriad of different infrastructure-related projects, from parks, utilities, roadway improvements. Since the CRA is primarily going to be focused on infrastructure for at least this year and probably the foreseeable future, the city manager and I both thought she would be a great candidate for the position in terms of bringing project management for infrastructures to the CRA. Doesn't mean you're going to lose me completely. I'll still be working hand in hand with Ms. Toscano on the CRA and other issues related to infrastructure. You might not see me as much in these meetings, but I'm confident that you're in good hands and the CRA is moving in a good direction. So round of applause for Brenda. Thank you. I also wanted to introduce Michelle Minkoff as our new Chief Operating Officer for the city. First time we've ever had that position. Michelle, thanks for being here. Michelle joins us from Seacoast Bank and a wealth of knowledge and experience in customer service. She's going to be heading up our internal services, including things like finance and HR and IT and all those services that not only provide service for our customers in the city, but then also internally for other departments like mine. So happy to have new talent, and again, just want to recognize Sierra for all of her contributions to the city, and she's going to be missed.
Hey, thank you. I was hoping we'd get you to cry before I had you to read the consent agenda.
There's still time.
Okay, Sierra, would you go ahead and read the consent agenda?
Yes, sir. Consideration of approval, November 24th, 2025, CRA Governing Board meeting minutes.
Right, do we have a motion to accept the minutes of the November 24th?
Motion to accept the minutes from the November 24th meeting.
A second? And we have a second. Any discussion? Any public discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and take the vote.
All right, Board Member Carroll, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines? Aye. Board Member Jay Cox?
Aye.
Board Member Corsi?
Aye.
Board Member Shalkowski? Aye. Board Member Ballman?
Aye.
And Chair Keough.
Aye. So carries, and then we're going to go all the way down to old business now, information only. Mitchell's Tropical Treats, Anchor Tenant Program and Business Facade Grant. Mr. Maslow?
Mr. Chairman, a couple more introductions just to get us started. So I want to also recognize Ms. Laura Smith. I'm reintroducing her. You might recognize her. She's been a part of the ongoing conversation with the CRA Advisory Board, which is on our agenda for the task force tonight. I asked her to review some documents that were provided from Mr. Mitchell Hill, who's been a pleasure to communicate and work with. I wanted to give them an opportunity just to go through chronologically everything that Mr. Hill gave us. We had this as one of our items at the last CRA meeting. I just didn't want to lose sight of it, want to bring some closure and make sure that all the documents and all the history we've received on the staff side, we're also sharing that with you as a board. And just a special thank you for Mr. Mitchell Hill for being here tonight. I invited him to say a few words. He doesn't have anything necessarily prepared, but he is here should you have any questions.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you all. So I believe you have a brief summary of this in your packet. So really, I'm just here if you have any additional questions, but ultimately, the materials that I reviewed alongside your code and your procedures would suggest that nothing was officially filed requesting anything from the agency. And additionally, the agency chose during your last budget session not to fund these incentive programs for the current fiscal year that you're within. So these are not funded programs. Those priorities were shifted over to capital improvements projects. So though the programs do exist, they're not currently funded in the current budget year. So to make any action there or to even evaluate applications at this stage would require you to amend your budget and fund those programs to some extent. Again, I'm here to answer any questions you may have, but it should all be summed up pretty well in the brief staff report.
Thank you. Mr. Hill, would you have anything that you want to add?
Good evening, all Mitchell Hill. Mr. Mayor and members of council, forgive me if I say I really didn't understand what the conclusion by the lady who spoke before me. Is she saying that this matter is accepted or this matter is put until next year? Or you see, I'm honestly not sure, so it's difficult to me to speak to the issue until I'm fully aware of what her conclusions were.
Okay.
Or are.
Mitchell, why don't you have a seat, and Mr. Maslow, you can go through the, I heard chronological issues and things in detail.
Thank you.
Laura, did you want to come back up? Maybe go over a little bit more detail? Maybe just like you went over on our call that we had leading up to this?
Okay, so essentially what we have is that the owner of Mitchell's Tropical Treats essentially submitted a letter to the city. It was addressed to the mayor, vice mayor, council members of the city of Groveland. That was dated November 17th, 2025, referencing some improvements that were made to a property and seeking some sort of clarification as to how he goes about receiving benefits from programs that were in place in 2023, essentially. What those were you had a facade grant program, like a business facade for improvements to the exterior of the structure program. You also had an anchor tenant program that were in existence. So back in late 2023, so let's take off our 2026 hat and go back to the fall of 2023, the owner of this business sought information from your CRA staff about programs and incentive programs for opening a business within the CRA. They communicated the types of programs available and what those programs offered to recipients of those programs, and they identified both of those, the anchor tenant program and the business facade grant program. They communicated that via email to this gentleman. He proceeded following that communication, which occurred in September 2023. I do want to clarify that the CRA staff actually also communicated in that email, which you'll see in the materials you have, stating that there were intentions to change these programs, and that this individual should keep in contact with them because there were going to be changes made to these programs, that the agency and the city were already discussing making changes. So before moving forward with those programs, they should check back, essentially. After those email correspondences that occurred in September, there were a few meeting notices, like Teams meeting invites or Zoom meeting invite emails, for a couple of phone calls, but there's really nothing other than that on the city's side in terms of documentation or within the CRA's side for documentation. In July of 2024, your anchor tenant program was done away with and replaced with your small business improvement program, which is what you currently have written into your code of ordinances today. Your business facade grant program is also lumped in with that, and those have very specific processes and procedures that you have to follow in order to seek those types of incentives from the CRA. There's a number of things that have to be done there, including applying. There's an application that needs to be filed along with your project. You need to have bids showing that you went out and got contractors who are licensed and insured to give you bids on the build out of your space. These are all steps that you have to go through. All of that has to be presented to your staff. They evaluate it for completeness. And then, as you all may be familiar from not this year, but prior years, those then get brought in front of you. Those get presented to you, and then you all decide that, yes, this is consistent, and you vote to go ahead with that. That would then get them into an agreement with the agency. Anita helps with that to make sure that everybody agrees. And we know who's responsible for what the performance indicators are, all of those things. So this is a procedure. There's a process. You're all pretty familiar with it because you sit here and hear them a lot. So then this gentleman's business opened, Mitchell's Tropical Treats, opened around May of 2024, right before the change was made where you did away with this program and started another one. Since then, it's only been recently that the business owner has come forward and said, okay, I want to now get the benefits of those programs. But the problem is there was no application ever made for those programs. Other than your staff communicating how the programs work, the amount, the percents, the maximums, the not to exceeds, other than those communications, no application was ever filed, no support materials were ever provided. So what we have now is a letter, then a subsequent letter that came in December addressed specifically to Tim and the CRA, basically reiterating the prior letter, but then also adding in a bunch of receipts, emails, and things like that. So the receipts we have again, those are not helpful because we don't understand the context of them, but also these needed to come as an actual bid from a contractor. But to that is all if we were still back when those programs existed. But also those programs are not currently funded. So we're in this sort of situation of all of these things happened back in late 2023, early 2024, but there was nothing ever filed with the city requesting these benefits, these incentives for this business owner. So the process now for him, should he want to receive some sort of benefit or incentive, would be to come and apply for that. However, you do not currently have those programs funded, and your own code of ordinances says that those are available based on first come, first serve. So they're funded and they're on a first come, first serve basis, subject to available funding. You did not fund them in this budget year. So there is no funding available for those programs right now. That is essentially where we are at this moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Does that context give you the background that you need, Mr. Hill?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's a little clearer than before. I must say that I'm a bit surprised that, because when I first spoke to Ms.
Brooke Worthington?
Brooke?
Yes. To office, I remember signing something there because it was very new to me. And I'm a bit shocked that nothing can be found of what I signed. I didn't sign, quote unquote, a agreement, but I did sign something. And I'm strange that nothing can be found in the office. And the fact is that after that, we had several communications, as noted in my emails, verbal telephone conversations. And never did she say to me, listen, you need to come in and sign a letter of agreement. And my thing is, if this is a representative of the city, and she knew where we were going from day one, and she knew there was a need to sign a document, that would have been part of the process that I would have been informed. I was never informed by her that there's a need to come in and sign a document. She kept corresponding with me, saying, come, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. You will qualify for this, you qualify for that. These are all documented in my email and her correspondence to me. And I find it very strange that an official document of the city who is responsible for CRA would not have said to me, applicant at the time, to her, that this is the procedure you need to follow. There is a need for you to sign some document, go and get a contractor. That's all I'm hearing today for the first time. It was never informed to me at all. I was told that my company would qualify for those two programs by her, and they're all documented from her also to me, that I would qualify for these programs. She did inform me, yes, that they're looking at some changes, but never said to me that these changes would mean that you need now to sign some documents, X, Y, Z. But all along, The city of Groveland, represented by Miss Worthington, the city of Charm, was very charming to me by saying, go right ahead. Go right ahead. Prepare your building. Get it ready, because the city would support you in those programs. And I did just that, sir. So I find it very strange that there seemed to be a reluctance by the city of Charm to hold to its words. I came today not expecting that kind of response at all from Mr. Meiselo and his consultant, because clearly I was informed that the city of Groveland would support, through the CIR program, Michelle's Tropical Treats. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions, starting with, what? Starting with Dan? You have any questions?
Yeah, a question for Mr. Hill. And this is just clarifying curiosity in your relationship. I think I asked something else about in regards to your lease with the person who owns the property. Yes. Were you ever granted any rent abatement or build-out allowance?
Yes, I was told that I have, I think it was 3 months without pay for the first 3 months, yes.
Okay.
That's the only thing I was granted.
That's the only question I had.
Sorry?
I said that's the only question I had. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Jaycox?
Building what it was to what it is today, it's more than a 200% increase of what it is today. In fact, many of the persons who have come there have highly complimented my staff and myself of making Groveland a name that everybody comes to know. We say it very clearly that while Orlando has its Disney, while Claremont has its hills, now Groveland has Michelle Tropical Treats. And that's where everybody comes to know.
That 3 months in rent, what does that total to be? The 3 months in rent that you were, what is that total? 48.95 times 3. That's about about $14,000, sir. Next question is to Tim. Tim, there's a email in this package from Worthington on the 20th of September on 2023, where they speak about the program, and they said they would know more information after the 25th meeting. And they explained the whole thing to him. Is that where you ended? Is that where the board ended the funding on that meeting, the 25th?
They rewrote the guidelines of the program, and one of the big decisions that they had to weigh at the time, not popular to everybody, not everybody was on board with this, but they did away with qualifying restaurants as a use without being a farm-to-table related restaurant serving local food. There's some issues using the anchor tenant before with a couple of other applications that were restaurants. The presentation that was provided by John Jones from GII also demonstrated some of the issues with those previous anchor to tenant grant applicants. Also talked about some thin margins with restaurants and a high level of risk. The way the program was set up at the time is it became a loan to grant program, essentially. If the anchor tenant didn't last more than 5 years, they would have to pay back their program. It was problematic in the sense that if the business is closing up and not generating any money from an accounting position, there's no money to really pay back the program. So that was really what led to, again, not a popular decision, but one that the CRA board made at the time to amend the guidelines and not allow restaurants to qualify. You mentioned the email from September 20th, 2023 from Brooke Worthington to Mr. Hill. I will read one of the sentences here after explaining the guidelines of the program. Please note, we will have more information about the feature of this program after the September 25th board meeting. I'll make sure to provide you with updates on the status of the program as it's currently on pause. So again, it indicated that the program was on pause at the time. When we look at that and the fact that we didn't have an application on file and certainly didn't have an approval, unfortunately, for Mr. Hill that would have had to receive an approval from the CRA board, we just don't have anything on file to provide funds at this time. And I think to Mrs. Smith's point, now, if we rolled out the program, it's currently unfunded, and the guidelines are not set up in a way where this business would even qualify. So those are kind of the facts that we're dealing with. I would like to commend Mr. Hill for being having a great business establishment in the downtown, downtown and revitalization, creating opportunities for small businesses, something that we take importantly here at the city. It's one of our top goals. It's just there's nothing in place in terms of the documents to provide any kind of financial relief from what we're seeing in terms of our research on our end from a public records request perspective, and then also what Mr. Hill provided us.
So where's the email after the 25th meeting to tell Mr. Hill that the program is no longer suitable for his business?
Have to look through. Laura, do you remember any email coordination after those?
So that's where the email correspondence concludes.
The microphone, Mr. Hill, let her speak so we have an answer.
That's where the email correspondence concludes. After the conversation, the email exchange on the 20th, subsequent email exchanges are only related to scheduling conversations. So it's just like sending someone a Teams meeting invite or sending them a Zoom meeting invite for verbal conversation. So there was no subsequent documented written correspondence or email communication between agency staff, board members, or Mr. Hill subsequent to that communication on the 20th.
Okay, the last line of the first paragraph says, "I will make sure to provide you with updates on the status of the program as it's currently on pause." So you didn't give him any updates?
This wasn't me, this was Brooke when
Right,
she was
right.
here. However, I don't know, Brooke may have called him and done that verbally. We have no way of knowing how that exchange occurred after that because Brooke no longer is an employee of the city of Groveland, and no documentation or paperwork was ever filed in the form of an application. Nothing was ever received. Now, we can say based on the history, the year before that, that Brooke clearly knew how the process worked because you saw things that came through her office. You saw applications, you saw support materials, you saw communication. She presented those projects to you, and you all voted then on whether or not they were consistent and compliant. Her email even says so. After we review the application and confirm that it complies.
Okay, so Mr. Hill had a whole bunch of conversations with the city.
I don't know how many.
And then it concluded with this email, saying the city would get back to him after the 25th meeting, but the city never got back to him.
The verbal communication happened after the email exchanges. The email exchanges happened first. If you look at the Teams meeting notice dates and stuff like that, those are all like them having verbal meetings after the September date. So again, we do not know what those verbal communications said. She may have given him a full update. I do not know, and I can't speak to what Brooke did or did not communicate because we do not have record of those phone conversations other than the fact that they occurred. Any number of things could have happened in those conversations. I don't know what they were. What we can state, what are the facts of the situation are, no application was ever filed for this program. You did away with this program and replaced it with a different program in July 1st of 2024. Prior to that, the program was on hold in September. It was not an active program. You had put it on hold in September 2023 because you were going to change it. That was the plan. You were revisiting. So this program, this project, all of these things were actively in flux. They were being redefined, reconfigured during the time whenever he was doing the improvements on his tenant space. She did send him a list of tenant spaces before that email on September 20th saying, here's some available spaces in Groveland, you should look at them. He found one. She said, her email, I'm so glad you found a space. I'm glad it works out for you. These are the two programs. Here's how they work. Here's what happens. They are currently on pause. We are looking at changing them around. Like, all of that's there. I can't say what the verbal communication was between she and the applicant or any of his associates after that email communication. That's what we have.
Okay, these invoices they start in December of 2023. So if the city would have got back to him and said, sorry, Mr. Hill, the program hasn't been funded and it doesn't look like it's going to be funded anymore, so you're not going to be able to qualify this, he might make different business decisions.
He'd already selected his space even in September. That's what she was communicating. His business opened in May 2024. I can't say what Mr. Hill would or would not have done with the information that the incentive program was going to change. I also can't say that the investments that he made are consistent with your program. I can't say that a Lowe's receipt went to that building. The things he bought on a Lowe's receipt went to doing anything in that space. That's why we're supposed to have contractors doing this work who are licensed and insured. Otherwise, you could be building out your house.
No, I understand all that, but
there's a process, there's a procedure, there's paperwork. None of that happened.
that's a city process. That's not a process for Mr. Hill, and Mr. Hill is not supposed to be an expert on that city process.
That's correct.
So you can't blame Mr. Hill for going under the assumptions that this program was there when we never sent him a letter saying the program was gone. We didn't send him an email, we didn't send anything. We told him we were going to tell him.
Mr. Jaycox, I'm gonna just say one thing.
Okay.
I'm not here to defend Brooke or to defend Mr. Hill's choices. Those are things that happened. All I can do is tell you exactly the facts and the chronology of what did happen.
And I appreciate that.
And that's what we have in front of us. This program is not funded for anything to move forward. You would have to fund these programs. He would have to fill out an application. He would have to go back and get a contractor to sign off on work that was done there. Some of this work doesn't even comply. Your current incentives don't even allow an ice cream shop to get an incentive. So you are talking about unwinding 2 years of changes in order to get back to there. We know where we are now. We know that when Brooke was here, when she was in the capacity she was in, she regularly and routinely processed applications consistent with the city's process and communicated effectively with applicants. If that failed in this situation, it is regrettable. We are where we are today, though, and we can't go back and relitigate something from 2 years, 3 years ago at this point.
No, I'm not asking to do that.
Thank you. I mean, I'd just like to stick to the facts, okay? And I think it was laid out, there were specific things in our minutes from the last meeting that were to be provided. We were to get copies of those. They weren't provided. I'd like to address exactly what got us here because no application was filled out. That establishes a precedent that I don't know if we want to go down that road of.
No, I don't see anything backtracking, you know, to put this in, you know, under something that was already done. I just want to make sure that I'm reading this right. I'm reading the backup information that we said we would get back to him and we did not.
I don't think that's a fair statement, sir.
We don't know if we don't know that because
What
we
we
don't
do know-
have a piece of paper that says you did.
Correct, but there were verbal conversations that occurred. Mr. Hill has said he had verbal conversations with
It's
Ms.
okay.
Worthington.
It's okay.
So we know conversations occurred. We can't say what did or didn't happen in those conversations.
But the fact is, there was no application. That's where we have to start, on what actually is here, okay?
Okay, I'm okay with that.
I'm going to let the Vice Mayor speak.
Thank you, because I'm just really bursting at the seams. My background for 35 years was in small business with the federal government, from guiding small businesses to procurement policy. Groveland is supposed to be known as a city with natural charm. Over 99% of the businesses in America are small. Often, small businesses don't know what they don't know. I cannot believe that the CRA or whoever it was that was providing these funds were so inundated that they couldn't walk business A, B, and C through the process. Often small businesses need hand-holding. The day that the ice cream place opened, I was standing there with Brooke and Ashley. Mr. Hill stated at that time about the reimbursement for the CRA. At that time, Brooke said, well, they have now cut this out. I'm looking at Brooke. I'm looking at Mr. Hill. I'm looking at Ashley. Like, what is going on here? Now, we can't relitigate what happened, but what we can do is make a wrong a right. Small businesses don't often know what they don't know. Mr. Hill, I guess, had been in touch. He had had conversations with the mayor. He had had conversations with Brooke. We were standing there with the open house, and Brooke made that statement that day. If we are the city with natural charm, why can't we walk small businesses through what they are supposed to do? He may not have had an application. The receipts, they should have been more labeled. But why didn't somebody in the city with natural charm walk and hold Mr. Mitchell's hand? You that busy over there? I don't think so. Are we here to ensure that businesses can make it here, or are we here to put them out and make them miserable? He may not have followed all the rules. He may not have known all the rules. But that's where the city comes in. Folks, we need to do better. And at some point, I don't know how we're going to write it, but at some point, this is not a blame game. It takes two to tango. So I'm going to listen to the rest of this conversation and see where it goes from here. Right now, my head is exploding. Does anybody have any aspirin? No one has any aspirin? Okay. Okay, so Mr. Hill, I'm going to listen to the rest of this conversation. May I have an excuse to get some aspirin?
Joe? You're good? Steve?
I have a few questions for the staff, sir. So if you want to take a seat. Thank you. Just as I'm familiarizing myself with the different programs and what was paused and everything, what do you as staff consider an anchor tenant?
Anchor tenant is, I like to use a mall as an example, right? We're all familiar with shopping malls. It's common practice where on each end you have a bigger store, hire employees, household names, things like Macy's and Sears, JCPenney, those served as anchor tenants at one point. And they set up opportunity as people walked back and forth between those stores, those small businesses in between, they had opportunities to get the foot traffic. Same setup could be seen, back to ancient Renaissance town planning. You used to have a city hall and a church on one side, and you had an open space where the market and the vendors would set up because they knew people were going to walk. There was a corridor there was foot traffic. In today's day and age, anchor tenants, medical services, hospitals, schools, grocery stores. Grocery stores are a key anchor tenant. If a grocery store goes up, they usually get the best lease. It's an extremely low rate because the developer, whoever's leasing out the other properties, they know all the other tenants are going to want to be close to all the foot traffic and all the vehicular traffic of a grocery store. So the anchor tenant program evolved significantly. It was being used for the smaller businesses, nothing against funding smaller businesses, but at the time, the CRA board just didn't feel like the actual program, the guidelines met up with their needs of the day and their definitions. So, we looked at smaller restaurants as not necessarily being an anchor tenant, but some type of business that would take advantage of being closer to a larger scale anchor tenant.
I could see as an example, and is Publix in Groveland would be an anchor tenant, but you could also maybe say that one of the larger restaurants there is also maybe a smaller anchor, and that helps the UPS and all the different stores that you aren't driving to just for that. You may be stopping into the Metro store while you're going into Publix or the restaurant. So do you remember what some of the other examples for anchor tenants that were given money, like was money given to different organizations during your time here as an anchor tenant?
Biggest ones were Chefing It Up, pizzeria shop, and then the Butcher Block restaurant at the time. Those are two examples. There might have been another one or two, but those are the two that crossed my mind. The CRA was transitioned into my department, I want to say right around 2022, somewhere around there. First couple of years I was with the city, it was separate from my department.
And was there discussion from the board or the staff to change this from an anchor tenant to a small business kind of recruitment? Because it seems odd that we do have an anchor tenant program when we don't have a ton of those examples in Groveland or the infrastructure to bring one in. Like I could see if we had a build out and then we were waiting for an anchor to come into that shopping center so then we could bring in a bunch of others. But was there discussions about changing this to a small business kind of grant?
It did evolve into a small business grant away from just the business facade. And one of the reasons because of that is when we looked at the actual applications and the use of funds, it was tied to only exterior, which is common in CRAs because you're really trying to revitalize the public realm, the infrastructure, and the face of the buildings frame the open space for the occupants. A lot of requests that we received included things like kitchen equipment, materials on the interior, renovations to the interior of the business. So at the time, the CRA board did make an amendment to include both interior and exterior and evolve the business facade program to more of a open and more flexible small business grant program.
And currently, so for both of those programs, they were both paused in 2023, and then no funding was given in 2024?
I think we did have some funding budgeted, at least in fiscal year 24. It's only been fiscal year 25, I think, was the first year it was unfunded. It's currently not funded today.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get back to the facts of this particular case. We've reviewed this once before, and this is coming back just for discussion, no vote. But at the last time this came up, which was our last CRA meeting, it was said that there was requested documentation from you, from the CRA. Ms. Gaines asked if that would that be supplied? And the answer was yes. Did you get all the requested documentation that you asked for?
We gave every document that we had. Some of those documents might have not existed maybe, such as an application, but we gave everything that we provided or received from IT as a public records request and the city's clerk's office.
I'm talking about, we were talking at that time about the amount of money and the receipts and all the different things. And spreadsheet is on here that should have been supplied. There was several specific requests that are in our minutes last time that needed to be supplied, and I want to know if they were supplied.
They are in the packet. Everything that we received either internally or externally from Mr. Hill, everything that was provided to us is provided in the packet. We even asked Mr. Hill, because just being aware of a sense of privacy, wanted to make sure that he was okay sharing that in a public meeting and as a public document. Some of the information in here, bank account, social security information of that nature has been redacted, but any and all information that we've received, we made sure that was included in the packet for your review.
Okay, well, I'm just getting down, and let me just keep asking. There was a spreadsheet with all the receipts and everything. Was that turned over? I don't remember seeing a spreadsheet.
I would have to go through each file to see specifically.
Because my next
what's
question would be, knowing what the equipment, knowing what the requirement for the receipts, knowing how they need to be put together, according to, I'm sure that you went through Mr. Hill and let him know what exactly had to be submitted, correct? On what needed to be submitted to qualify?
I did not go over a new application for Mr. Hill because the program's currently unfunded. If the board is interested in refunding the program and re-enrolling that, I'd be happy to go over the application and start something new with the applicant, with Mr. Hill.
Okay, I don't want to take this too long on this. I don't want the board, I'm just asking for my own good. Did he meet all the requirements that we said that we needed to meet at the last meeting that's in these minutes, so where a decision could be made if this was a valid issue, or if it was, we were being misguided a little bit?
Mr. Hill provided all the information that he had, I believe it, in terms of letters, email correspondence, receipts, quotes. There's quite a bit there.
Okay, Mr. Hill, I was at that opening, and you knew that you weren't going to get it before the opening, correct? I was at your opening when we had a discussion with the mayor at the time and Brooke and everybody, but you were unable to purchase, and you made sure that you didn't purchase a larger ice cream making machine because you were expecting to get this grant, which didn't come through. So prior to opening, did you know that you weren't getting the grant?
No, sir. I was never informed by way of letter or by correspondence with verbal conversation that I will not get the grant, sir.
Did you ever fill out an application?
I wasn't asked to fill out one, sir.
You weren't asked to fill out an application?
I wasn't asked to fill out an application by Brooke, sir. She never discussed application with me, sir.
So you...
That day, she had to sign something there, and I signed it. It never said, this is an application, this, you need to fill out this, 1, 2, 3 items, X, Y, Z, nothing like that, sir.
So not filling in an application, what did you think the city was going to reimburse you for?
The city said that if I produce the doc information, that's what I was told in the, is a loan to grant, and at the end of the period, I will reimburse, provide a receipts, etc., sir. That's what the document said.
So you believe that the city was going to reimburse you for any receipts you put in, and there was no qualification of any of those receipts?
Falsification, sir?
For the receipts, you spent this money.
No, sir. All the receipts that I submitted to Mr. Glasgow were receipts that used on the building, sir.
Okay, did you know that you had to use licensed contractors?
I wasn't told I had to use any particular contractor, sir.
So in essence, you signed a piece of paper that you didn't know what it was and expected to get a reimbursement for from the city for a certain amount of whatever you did?
As per what I was told in the letter she sent me, that there's a percentage of 80 to 20 and a 50 to something. That was in the email she sent me, sir.
Okay, my last question would be, do you have anything from the city, signed by the city? You think you signed something. Do you have something signed by the city?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And may I make one correction? So you asked me the question referred to regards to the rent. I made one error. So it's actually 3 times 3895, not 4895, sir. My apology.
Okay, Matt, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my primary question is why
Get your microphone closer.
I am.
please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Clearly.
My primary question is why did it take more than a year to get back to the city after?
You would not understand the trauma that I went through, sir. After the business opened, 3 months after, I had 3 surgeries and my son died. He was a nuclear engineer on the MSS Harry Truman. Between that period, I had 3 operations on my eyes, and my son died, sir.
Sorry to hear that.
No time to think about that at the time, sir.
I can understand that.
So I was under the knife. I lost my son, sir. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yes. I would like to know, I know you don't have the answer here tonight, but when we did the open house at Mitchell's, what Brooke said was they had decided to no longer fund restaurants, which I guess included the ice cream place. What I would like to know is the timing of when and if Butcher Block got money, if that was during the time before they decided, if Butcher Block got money during that time and Mitchell's Ice Cream didn't. I would like that I would like for somebody to get back to me with that information.
I can speak to that. Butcher Block had an application at least a couple years prior to Mr. Hill opening up his business. The program was applicable to restaurants at that time. In fact, Butcher Block's application, along with another restaurant, was one of the reasons the board at that time decided to exclude restaurants.
We have got to do better. Small businesses, I'm going to repeat it again, they don't know what they don't know. And if we are the CRA or whoever we are, it's up to us to reach out and give a helping hand to these small businesses. I don't have any proof, but I believe that the ball was dropped. Should Mr. Hill have signed an application and all of that? I believe that he should have, and perhaps been a little more diligent when it came to that. But what is wrong with the city sitting down and going over this with Mr. Hill so that he understands the process? Y'all make it make sense to me, because right now I'm not understanding.
Any further discussion?
Was there extra money in this fund that was rolled over into the budgets?
No.
No?
Remember, we voted that the whole program would go to infrastructure. And so that's where it got rolled into. I would ask I'm confused. I don't know about holding hands when there's no application in and there's no documentation or anything like that. I worry about the precedent we set on how many more no applications are out there that somebody said something to. And I mean, for all I know, this one, I signed a piece of paper, I don't know whether it was email or not, that could have been something that said we weren't going to do it. This is just too much in flux. But I would say, I am disappointed that we as a city don't sit down with the person prior to this meeting and say, this is what we're doing, this is what our suggestion would be, and get a lot of this taken care of with the staff and the applicant or potential or past applicant, because to flush all this out in a public meeting takes up a lot of time that a lot of questions could have been answered right there, and we wouldn't have been having this kind of conversation right now. That's our job. I don't want to broadside anybody from the public. I don't want our staff being broadsided. The only way that that can happen is when we say, bring this back, here are the issues that are clearly outlined in the minutes that have to be hit, and make sure they're done, and then get both of you together, and if you disagree, that's fine. I mean, that's fine, but there's not going to be a lot of he said, she said, and all this, because you can put out right there, this is what an application looks like. Did you ever see it? How did you know? I know that I was at that ice cream shop at the opening, and I had a strong conversation with the mayor and Brooke about the whole restaurant thing, but I also know that we weren't getting a bigger ice cream machine because we didn't get that money, okay? So I don't know what the action is that we need to do tonight. We can't take a vote because it's not on the minutes, but I would love to see staff and this gentleman get together and a strong explanation on both sides, and even show what a real process looks like so that everybody understands. And then I hate to table it again. You know, I hate to say come back again, but hopefully you guys can resolve something and bring it back. Any further discussion?
If this comes back, it would come back as an action item, correct?
Correct. And
So
that
we
would
won't go, I don't want to keep putting them through this over and over if we're not going to end up giving anything at the end.
If there's money to be exchanged, it would have to come back here, okay? If they solve the issue on their own, that's up to them. But whatever that action item is, I just want to make sure that Mr. Hill, this is very uncomfortable for me because you're a good friend of mine, but that whatever comes back, know that this can establish a precedent for other things that are going on. And when people, I don't think as a head of procurement, you would pay anything without an invoice. You know, it has to have an invoice. I'll walk people down the path and all that, but there's certain things that have to be done, and it's a responsibility, big, small, or medium business, to do that. Be careful about the precedent. That's all I've got to say. And whatever we do, we've got to be able to do time after time, okay?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah,
Can I say one more thing?
sure.
When I talk about holding hands, let me clarify that. When I talk about holding hands, I mean bringing the small businesses into the city and walking them through the process. So what I am talking about is procedures/process. That is what I mean by holding hands. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
In conclusion, Mr. Mayor, this is not about friendship. This is a love of my family for city. We came here and we wanted to find a place where we could feel comfortable and the city would appreciate our investment. And I take strong umbrage of anyone suggesting that Mitchell Hill will falsify any document and give them to Mr. Maslow. Strong umbrage on that. Every single document that was presented to Mr. Maslow is a qualified document. And we want to let you know that, sir, and your full staff.
Let me clarify, just a second. If I made you believe that I said you were falsifying documents, that was not what I meant. I meant that you meet the criteria. Secondly, it's not about falsification of documents, about documents not existing.
Thank you very kindly for your correction, sir. I appreciate that very much, because I don't want anyone to leave here with that thought in their mind at all, sir.
I apologize if that came out that
Clearly.
way.
All right. Thank you, my sir. Thank you for your listening. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just if I may, because we're all in the room together, I just want to be clear, just so we all leave, any grant program that is funded by the CRA, either in the past or now or going forward, will have to come to you as a board, and it will have to be approved by the board. That would be reflected in minutes. Just in case that ever happens for anybody in the audience or anybody here at the dais, I just want to be clear about that.
So we can say from now on, if it doesn't come before the board, it's false, right? Don't even think it unless it comes before the board, right?
It's never blessed until it's approved by minutes by this board at the dais.
Okay. Thank you very much. On to the next program, the next item, item 2 under old business, consideration of approval, resolution 2026-6, Community Redevelopment Agency task. Okay, Mr. Maslow.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a action item for you tonight. We've had a lot of conversation in terms of creating a new advisory board for the CRA. Based on conversation at the dais at the last meeting, there seemed to be quite the interest in exploring a task force just to try it out on a short-term basis, assign some tasks to the task force in terms of looking at the CRA plan, evaluating any kind of changes such as boundary amendments, but assigning that as a task force again to try it out instead of the full-time permanent advisory board. Was really the interest that we heard from the board at the last meeting. So I've asked Mrs. Smith also if you could come up to speak to this as well, just to go over some of those guidelines. We shared it in the packet for your review. And Laura, do you want to take it from there?
Yes, thank you, Tim. So just to reiterate, the last board meeting, the conversation was around, instead of establishing a permanent CRA advisory committee, where you would go through that process. Anita would prepare official documentation in the form of an ordinance to permanently seat an advisory committee, that as an alternative, we would create a task force to look at a specific topic or a specific set of topics, and do so simply for the CRA's benefit, and that would almost function as like a pilot program. And if that proves beneficial or instructional to this board as the agency itself, then we could transition that through formal procedures into a permanent advisory committee. If it was not something, or something that you thought slowed down your procedure, your process, or was in some way inhibiting your function of this board and the operation of the board, then upon completion of their task, it would just dissolve. So Anita has prepared a resolution that would create this sort of task force specifically to evaluate your current plan, meaning the goals and objectives within your redevelopment plan now, and kind of go through those and look for how well they align with your current programs and priorities, and making sure that all of those things align appropriately. That would essentially be their charge. And then they would go through that process. They would report back to you, give guidance or recommendations to you all as the official agency, and then you would take action based on their recommendation, or at least factoring in their recommendation. So Anita, I think you said you prepared this resolution similarly to another specific task force.
So the form that I used was the Ethics Committee. It does have some changes to it, but that was kind of the form that was utilized.
It's essentially the structure of how that was established. So this would be a limited focus task force. It's very up for interpretation at the moment in terms of how it would be assembled. The number of members, things like that can all be amended. She's laid it out in a form that has worked previously for the purpose of another committee. And we can always make changes to that or refine it based on the preference of this board.
Thank you. Thanks for all that effort, too. Okay, can we have a motion to accept 2026-6 Community Redevelopment Agency Task Force?
Move to approve Resolution 2026-6.
We have a motion, we have a second, and we have a second. Discussion.
I think it looks good as it is. I don't really have any questions.
I mean, I'm definitely a fan of getting something going now. I think there's still a ton of discussion that we still need to have in regards to governance, but there's also a lot of things that we can do in the next couple of years on this CRA, and we need help with that prioritization. We need other voices, so I'm all for this for that reason, is to get those priorities laid out as soon as possible.
Jay Cox?
Which option are we voting on? There's 3 options to this advisory board.
I think one was
There's just
selected. It says which one was selected.
There's only one option here. The options were from the prior discussion when we were talking about the configuration of this board. So when we were talking about option 1, option 2, option 3, that was to decide whether you wanted the board's configuration to stay as it is, or if you wanted to amend that to one of the other options that statute allows for. And an option in there, I think, included creating an advisory committee to serve in an advisory capacity to the board. So what we're talking about now is keeping the board configuration exactly as it is, making absolutely no changes to this board and how it functions and how it's configured, but adding this task force in so that you can kind of do a trial run on the idea of an advisory committee. So that's what this resolution does not change this configuration at all. You all stay exactly as you are, and the makeup of this board stays exactly as it currently is.
Right. So what does the resolution say?
It essentially says we're creating a task force that will be a minimum of 5 members, but no more than 7 members, which would be charged with reviewing the redevelopment plan from 2021, just making sure I got my year right, and looking at the goals and priorities there and making sure that those align with your current priorities, and if not, identifying areas where those adjustments need to be made, and that could include things like them recommending expanding the boundaries of the redevelopment area, creating a new redevelopment area, or updating some of your strategic efforts or some of your specialized target areas, those types of things.
Didn't we decide on, did we decide on 5 members last time? Or 7, each person elected, I think we said 7, so everybody gets to appoint 1 at the last meeting. Remember that was I had everything wrong, remember that? And they said, no, that's really the one you want to do. So we've covered that pretty substantially to get this done.
It just wasn't in the package, the resolution, so I just wanted to know what it said.
The resolution's not in the packet?
No.
It was in mine.
It was in mine.
Yeah.
I got it right here.
It should be toward the end. The minutes are very, very, very long.
Yeah.
Page 212.
I will warn you, the minutes are very long because they have a lot of presentations in them. So once you get through all of those slide decks that are up front, those are all part of the minutes. Then you'll get back to like the last 15 pages or so.
Okay, I see it now.
But it's pretty brief. It's actually very simplistic. I think that actually helps because this is going to be something that we're doing as sort of a test run to see how it works. And based on the feedback that we get from you all and how this task force performs and how maybe you want to then, because you'll have some practical use of this type of board, we can then make those more refined adjustments once that they finish with their charge. And then you could seat an advisory committee if you still want to, but you'd have the benefit of understanding and maybe you'd have a better idea of what your expectations are.
And refine it, that's what you're saying. We're going to taste it and then put the salt and pepper in. Okay.
Yeah, always taste first. Good call.
Okay. Steve?
No, I think I'm pretty good. I was reading section 5 because I think that's the main thing that we were talking about was giving them the redevelopment plan, and then I'm guessing giving them a few months to go over it and then give us a list of priorities, and then we would still select the priorities, correct?
Sure, everything would come back.
You all are still the agency. You are the end deciding situation. So no matter what the recommendation is of this task force, you're still the deciding body. So you could agree with them on some of their recommendations, and you may disagree on others. That's you all as the agency's decision to make at that time. But you could also craft your directions to them once that you've selected the members. We could maybe have a workshop or something like that to really define what tasks you want them to tackle and special focus areas for them.
No, I think this is great. I think it's a good plan to see how that committee would work and if it would hinder anything in any other way that was unexpected. So I think it's a really good idea.
Gaines? Yeah, nothing. Will we have a sunset on this? So we know when we can, because if we don't, it'll go on and on and on forever.
So it says that they shall exist until it completes the duties that you've assigned it.
Yeah, but can we put a deadline of no more than 6 months?
Sure. So-
We need to get it done because, and I don't want to cut you off, but my issue is we've got to plan a downtown. And we don't have that much time to plan a downtown. And we can't do the stormwater until we plan the downtown. And we need to get this thing settled. So I don't know how long it would be, but I would definitely make sure that that's part of the task for them to get stuff done on time.
Sure. If the board wants to set a time frame, I can adjust the resolution. You can still approve it tonight. Whoever made the motion and second could just amend it to include that deadline.
I agree. I think just letting it go indefinitely really doesn't set any kind of boundaries on it. For the purpose of downtown planning, if it could align with GAI and your guys' consultation through the downtown master plan, if we could somehow align it, that to me is, as a benchmark, seems to be the most defined.
Well, let's let them come back, with it, because there's a lot of, whether it's one-way or two-way and all kinds of stuff that need to be ironed out. But I just, I think we need to make sure that this doesn't go on and on and on, because we've seen that happen, and then we get whoever's in office when this thing starts gets their back against the wall because, we've got to get this design done or we can't do it in time and all that. So I would like to ask for a motion for a 6-month sunset to where this group comes back and say yay or nay or whatever.
I'm okay amending my motion to say have them bring the report by July 1st.
I'll second that.
You may want to be cautious about setting a date because you don't have a task force seated yet. So it may take you some time to assemble folks into a task force.
That's my next, that's what I'm getting into next.
So July 1st might be tight.
But having a sunset clause on the ordinance, I think is fine, right? And that was my next thing is, and I need the city attorney to help me out with this. Since this is appointed, instead of we have to vote on these people, each person appoints, do we have to wait for the next meeting to give our appointments and get it to the CRA manager, where then all the sunshine stuff and all that stuff that has to take place can take place before that, so we can speed it up a little bit?
So I can change the way it's worded, but currently it does say that at a public meeting, you're going to appoint those people based on people submitting letters of interest and their resume, and you'll select from there. So if you want that changed, then I can change it, and you just reflect that in your motion.
But each person selects their own
So
representative,
if that's how
right?
the board wants to do it, and each of you select and just send in a name, and that's your committee person, then I will revise the resolution to state that, if it's okay with the motion and the second.
I'm okay with that, and as well as amending maybe 6 months from the date the committee is seated, if that works, as far as having the sunset.
Yes, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
I can change that.
I amend my motion to include those options.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
So we have an amended, right? So
Yes. So it's to approve, but it's going to have a sunset of 6 months from the time the committee is seated, and each of the board members will send in to the city their selected appointee.
And before we vote, because I don't want to come back again, is, can we clarify, as we've talked, that because I was mixed up on this, that the representatives on this board can serve on that committee?
Yes, so you can have board members on this CRA board also serve on the task force. Nothing precludes that. They're going to be public meetings regardless, so they'll be published, noticed.
Okay. Just in case we want to make sure we have some continuity on the, don't give 7 people that don't know what's going on some, that'd be hard for them to adjust. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Any public input? Any public discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and take the roll.
Board Member Baumann, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Corsi? Board Member Carroll?
Aye.
Board Member Shalkowski?
Aye.
Board Member Jacobs?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines?
Aye.
And Chair Keo.
Aye. On to new business, or presentation, information only, and I think we added discussion into that, train depot restoration update. Mr. Maslow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you all for being here again tonight. This is an exciting project. Nothing against the task force conversation, but this is a building, this is a site that a lot of people have had on their minds for quite some time, and I'm excited that we're taking some action on this. I want to take a minute just to introduce the group. We've had a series of meetings probably since last fall. First of all, Mr. Corsi, as your representative from the CRA board, he's been at just about all these meetings. Robin Hoover from your Planning and Zoning Board has been attending. Jason Brown from the Historical Society, also letting us, by hosting the meetings across the breezeway at the museum, has been a big help. Cheryl Williams, also from the Historical Society, she's there in the back. Ross Howell from Avalon Park Group, who's currently the representing the owner of the site. Keep in mind, the train depot is not the city's property. It's not the city's building. It hasn't been for quite some time. We'll get into that. And I also wanted to recognize Tom Jackson, a general contractor. He's been great to work with, meeting on site, providing us cost estimates for construction, and even possibly moving the building came up, and he provided a very rough estimate on that. So again, thanks everybody for your contributions. I'm excited to present today. I've asked Mr. Brown, since his significant role with the Historical Society, he knows a lot more about Groveland's history than I do. So I'm going to ask him to present a few slides in terms of the historic significance of this site and of this building first, and then I'll get into some recommendations and ideas from the group. Do you need help? Okay.
Hello. My name is Jason Brown. I am the president of the Groveland Historical Society and curator of the museum. And first, I'd like to thank everybody on the council for moving us around. I know there's a little bit of confusion, so I just know that I'm sure y'all agree that children are a priority. And for those who don't know, I'm a private tutor, and so I needed to finish tutoring the children and make sure they got their education today. So I appreciate all y'all for moving that around. And you'll actually get to hear from one of my students and our two-time essay winner, Mr. Dorian, later today. So we're actually here today to give the city of Groveland the opportunity to fulfill a promise made over a decade ago to restore the train depot and create a historic center for the community. Before we get down to the brass tacks of this project, I would like to tell y'all a little story. Back in the day, as the story goes, one of our homeboys was serving in the military in Europe over 5,000 miles away. And one day, his longing for home was briefly cured when he opened up his rations and, to his surprise, found a jar of orange sections with the label stamped "From Groveland." I doubt my great-great-grandfather would have expected, when he first settled here back in 1870 at Brown's Ford along the thoroughfare, then known as the Palatka Creek, that one day our oranges would make it clear across the Atlantic Ocean. That trip across the world would not have been possible without the help of the Orange Belt Railway. They came through in 1887 to connect Florida's east and west coasts. Lewis Taylor and his brothers saw the importance of the railroad when they traveled along it until they found a nice spot in the wilderness between the tracks and the shore of Lake David to start a community here with their Negro workers and build their new turpentine business. The workers loaded up barrel after barrel onto the trains while they were also building a community that made its way from the river down closer to the tracks. Soon Mr. Edge would arrive here with a vision and began constructing many bustling businesses around the depot. He not only began shipping turpentine, lumber, and citrus all across the country, but also sent his son, Lacey, up to the train to Tallahassee, where he served as Florida's youngest ever Speaker of the House and in the Senate, before returning as Groveland's first mayor. When the Arnold brothers came and constructed the largest sawmill in the southeastern United States, right here along the railroad, they shipped their lumber, made from Groveland's pine forest, to 48 different countries. Imagine how many homes all over the world are still standing from being built out of the strong pines of Groveland. Groveland was the economic hub for communities from Stuckey to Winter Garden. As they said, it was the only place in Lake County where you could get everything that you needed in one trip. All these things and more were made possible because of Groveland's train depot that began serving our families over 100 years ago. And as you can see here, this is one of the original plats of South Lake County. It shows the whole county, and you can see how important the train is connecting all of these communities that we have here. We kind of say we're a conglomeration of communities because we serve a lot of the smaller settlements that never really thrived, but Groveland was the center. Would you like me to go over some of the slides now? So as you can see in the slides, we have the historic train depot. And we have some aerial photos, and this was the B&W canning plant. As you can see, it took up a lot of the town of Groveland. And right towards the right side, you can see the train depot right below the water tower in its original construction with the loading dock and the additional section that was later removed. But you can see it in its complete build there. This is one of the earlier photos. As you can see, this is from the west side looking east with some of the gentlemen there with the railroad going by. And you can see, of course, when everybody came into town, what the first thing they saw coming through the train was the sign up there, Groveland. Thanks. Another later photo, this is towards the 60s or 70s, and you can see with the loading dock, the platform and everything back there with the B&W canning plant in the back. Some later photos still with the B&W. You can see the water tower there. You see the W on one side and the B on the other, but B&W had their name on the water tower for those that have been here long enough to remember. And you see again the signs with Groveland in prominence there.
Jason, can you take a minute just to kind of go over REACH and what that means and how that provided some influence to our group?
So early on, we kind of came up with the acronym for REACH, and that's Recreation, Economy, Agriculture, Community, and History. So we wanted this to be a hub for the community where we can apply all those different programs to the depot. So with the bike trail coming through, it's going to go right basically in front of the depot. So provide opportunities for like a bike rental stall where people can come and come learn about the history, get on a bike, go through all the different downtown businesses, go all the way to Publix and back if they wanted to once it's connected. So it's going to promote recreation for the community and give opportunities for business as well to participate in that. The economy, as part of the things we do with the museum, we host a lot of vendor events with the businesses The city does the farmers markets, so this would be a place where we could all kind of come together, promote all of the small town businesses, and bring them all together and have a place where they can all get together, promote the businesses, and let everybody know who's here and all the great things we have here in Groveland. Connecting that again with the agriculture, with the community markets, like I said, the farmers markets, and bringing in all of the different farmers and everybody that we have in all of our rural communities that we, like I said, conglomeration. So there's a lot of farmers and stuff still in the community that bring their, whether it's cattle or produce, they can all bring it here to our farmers markets and have a central location to kind of spread that out. And as far as community, with the Historical Society, we do a lot of events. We just had this past weekend a Night of Inspiration. Some of y'all attended, and trying to give back to the community, bring everybody together. People say our events are like a Hallmark movie where the whole community comes together and supports each other. So we're trying to bring that small town feel back that I grew up with and give it to our new residents as well and share it with them, and so they kind of know what Groveland was like, and hope to bring that back. And of course, the history with the museum. For those that don't know, we were promised to be in there for over a decade ago, and we hope to get in there again and have the history of Groveland presented inside of the depot. So that is a hope of ours that that promise will be fulfilled as well. And either way, what we do, we're currently working on curriculums, books, and things to get the school children involved so that we can have a place. So if we had the full restoration with the extension put back on, we'd be able to have classrooms to promote for the children as well as the adults in the community come learn about the history of the town that either they grew up in or that they've moved to and joined. So we really want to promote that history. There's a lot of secrets and things, I don't say secrets, but a lot of things that seem secret because nobody knows about them. I say we're the best kept secret in Groveland because people don't know our history. They hear a little snippet or a headline and that's it, and they don't really know how deep and interesting until they come in, their eyes light up and they're like, wow, how does all this in Groveland? So we really want to bring that to the community and share it with them.
Thanks, Jason. Okay. So really, when we started this conversation with Jason and the group, the reach was one of the first things we looked at. If you recall the strategic plan, comprehensive plan update, code update, a lot of the things that we do here at the city, we like to have core tenets in the beginning to kind of help drive the recommendations or policies or whatever that we're working on. We felt as a group that these core tenets, recreation, economy, agriculture, community, and history, those were very key to everything that we looked at in terms of location, design, construction costs even, and overall look. So I'm excited to get to the core of the presentation in terms of the recommendations from the group. Again, I'm going to start with location and design, construction costs, potential uses in a business model. There's a lot of numbers ran on this. We're not sharing everything because we really haven't had that much time to clearly vet some of these assumptions, but there's quite a bit there. It serves as a stepping stone, if you will, and then the next steps after tonight. So in terms of the site plan, we looked at this project. Obviously, it's currently owned by Avalon. It's there on the west side of South Lake Avenue, which is going to be home to one of our new main streets. It's also on the north side of Broad Street, terminating where the trail is connecting the South Lake Trail from Crittenton down to Broad. In the agreement, which we'll get over later with Avalon, it indicated deeding over the space for the building with 10 feet around it, I think, just for access. When we met with the group and we met with Ross, we looked at doing a train depot restoration that created a space around it that was very inviting and active, promoted community events such as farmers markets. One of the things that we also looked at was the restored train depot at the city of Winter Park. I think that was probably our first meeting. We toured something that provided a successful example to the group. A lot of those recommendations in terms of uses actually come from that Winter Park train depot, which we'll get into. Here's the floor plan. On the right side of the screen, you're going to see the 1,222 total square foot. That's the existing building that you see today. And there's quite a few uses that the group came up with that potentially would work out in that space. The biggest generator is probably not only just the plaza outside the building, but that additional 1,455 total square feet. That provides an indoor-outdoor space for events, which is very similar to what Winter Park does with their restored train depot. It's consistent with the original integrity of the historic depot. Again, the portion of that building is not there today, so that would have to be built. That's the largest cost when we get into construction costs. There's then a platform deck of additional space for spillover seating and this walking access. And we even came up with the concept of a rail car that could be incremental, that could be added back there for dining and several other potential uses. And then here's what the space looks like. I'm going to go over a few pictures that Ross's group was kind enough to produce for us. And then there's a video that's going to explore the space. But you see the train depot situated with other businesses, with an outdoor space. And it's all about creating an outdoor living room for people to be inviting, creating opportunities for small businesses to get some of that foot traffic. Early in the conversation, we talked about anchor tenants, what drives foot traffic, what drives people to that location. That's something that small businesses really look for. And then having a quality of space in terms of having a brick plaza that's similar in nature and materiality to the historic depot once it's restored. Just outside, showing that platform outside the event hall. And then here's a space showing the water fountain. Again, this is more of an urban plaza, open space. This is the type of park space that you would see in a downtown that makes it attractive for people either waiting for somebody or reading the newspaper or walking with their kids, having an ice cream cone, just enjoying the natural charm of Groveland, if you will. Here's some open space with some landscaping. Again, creating some park space around the train depot. And creating that, I like the town troubadour there. I haven't mentioned this at the meeting, but anytime you have a town troubadour sitting outside playing music in a downtown, that's probably a good sign that you're in a good space. And I'm going to use the clicker here and click this blue dot. Might need IT's help, Rob. Able to populate? Not working. Is that on your end? Okay. We'll come back to it. It's worst case scenario, if we have to email it out, we will, but that's kind of the fireworks of the presentation. Rob, did you want to try before I move to the next slide? There it is. Rob, if he could full screen it and just X out of the notifications, it should come up. Start tour. Skip.
Welcome to the new Groveland station. In this virtual tour, you can use your common buttons to interact and navigate around this innovative space.
Should be able to X out the very top right. How can you click that red button? There you go. that's really the space. X out of this. And I'll email those out to everybody too, so you can see it afterward. Slide. So again, that's the plan view, dedicated area. This is 0.25 acres, just to put that in perspective. We're going to be getting into next steps, which would include a lot split and then deeding a property to the city. Timing is the only thing really to consider if we want to have that property deeded to the city prior to construction or after. We'll get into that. But again, it's how do we restore this train depot, create an opportunity for small businesses, an essential gathering space for the public. And really, you know, when we talk about downtown redevelopment, we need catalysts. We need to demonstrate opportunities for development, catalyst sites where people actually want to be. And once you create some of these in your downtown, that progress radiates out. But you need a few locations to create that critical mass. So construction costs. Again, Tom Jackson was nice enough to volunteer his services and give us an idea of what this would cost. Tom Jackson is a general contractor in the area who does specialize in historic restoration. So the existing building, that was the most inexpensive, just below $300,000 to restore that building to its original historic integrity. The covered pavilion with the restrooms in the back was a little over $800,000. Total for building, non-site development included, was a little over $1.1 million. When we look at site work having to be there in tandem with the building, especially creating an outdoor gathering space in the form of that urban plaza, we think a better appropriate budget just to add some contingency is likely around the $2 million amount. Potential uses and business model. Event hall was a use. Museum was also discussed. Cafe and tap room. Think coffee in the morning and the afternoons, and maybe beer and wine in the evenings. Artisan market, having space for vendors, having an outdoor market, of course, with the farmers market, or a similar type market space. Bicycle rental was also another potential use. Being right next to the trail, that would make sense. So this is a breakdown of each space. You see the space name, you see the square footage on the right side, and to the right of that, you see the primary uses and the capacity and the revenue rule. The event hall was seen as the primary revenue generator. That's also consistent if you look at Winter Park's model, because that's the space that they lease out for events, including weddings. Quite popular, difficult to book within, really a 24-month calendar period. That could have that kind of potential here in Groveland. The historic station, splitting that up, could be an evolving exhibit with the museum space. Artisan stalls and even co-working was discussed. You see the capacity next to it. That's more on the moderate level for revenue rule. The outdoor deck, not necessarily about a revenue generator, but just works in tandem with the event hall, provides some additional outdoor square footage. The rail car kitchen, again, thinking incrementally and how the space could evolve in the future and having additional uses. That was just less than 450 square feet, and that could be home for a cafe or a tap room. And then the market square, which is really that whole urban plaza area that you see outside the restored train depot. That's, not only a space for people to enjoy, but leasable space for vendors in terms of having a market there. This is just a breakdown. This was shared with you all before the presentation, and if you haven't seen the slides for whatever reason, just let me know. We'll make sure that you get your hands on these. But this is just a breakdown of each space. So you have a picture, you have the square footage, the capacity, the historic station. This is a breakdown in terms of the percentages of that smaller space in terms of how it could be used with a visitor center / rail museum, artisan market, and then meeting and co-working. That's the outdoor deck. There's the Market Square numbers that we put together. Just ballparking about weekly vendors of about 50. I think the space is designed and has adequate size for that. Vendor's fee, just starting out with something nominal first, $21, but trying to stay open, one day per week for the year, so 52 weeks per year. That's really, if you look at the other successful markets in the other cities, they're typically there almost every week. So next steps, lot split and deed to the city. So again, right now, the property is owned by Avalon and their partner, not owned by the city. There are no lot lines for the property to be deeded to the city to this point. So drawing those lot lines and creating that space around the train depot for not only the train depot itself, but then also having an outdoor park space around it, that's really the first step. Refining the business plan. These are, potential uses, and these are some concepts that came from the group. Ultimately, space is going to be owned by the city. It would be seen as another facility that would be rented out, much like this building that we're in. You also have the Lake David Center as a similar type building, but then a lot more dynamic in terms of the range of uses and historic significance of the space. Securing funding. Once it is owned by the city, that gives us some more flexibility in going in terms of calling up Tallahassee, submitting appropriations requests, looking at various grants. We would be the applicant requesting it rather than a private developer. There's trade-offs to both, though. But pre-construction, going through the design and engineering process, shoring up their construction costs. We talked about doing a design build process to make sure that we're estimating costs throughout the design process and we don't get to construction with a bunch of surprises. And then operating, going through the RFP process, making it fair to the public, giving them opportunities to submit proposals for leasing and operating some of these spaces. I did want to draw a little bit of attention to the Avalon incentive agreement that is there. We do have the desired amenity train depot section that speaks to the amount of space along with the depot that would be conveyed to the city and the timing of that. There was two options, really, and I highlighted some of this. The city and developer may enter into a separate agreement where the developer would refurbish the train depot prior to the land conveyance. So you can see as the first option is getting the lot split, getting the property deeded to the city. We control the destiny, and then we control everything in terms of grant funding opportunities, but funding in general, going through the construction process, and then operations. The second option would be having the developer enter into a separate agreement that would give them the opportunity to restore it in tandem with the lot split and the space, and then convey the property to the city after it's restored. There's some pros and cons to each, but I just want to bring that to your attention. As a next step, I've had conversations with Ross and the group about having the surveying work done, having the lot split created, so that if and when we choose to have, to hit that button, have it deeded to the city, we're able to do that really quickly. The other option, though, is we sit on the lot split, have the depot restored by Avalon, vet that opportunity, and see if we could come up with a win-win for not only development, but also the city as well. So that's kind of where we're at. Jason, did I miss anything? Is there anything key that I just grazed over that we should elaborate on?
Not that I can think of. Okay. Is there something you want me to mention? Or?
I can't think of anything. Sometimes I forget. But again, I just want to thank everybody who made contributions to this effort. And it's open for discussion.
Jersey?
Clearly, I have a lot of ideas and a lot of time invested into this group. So to be honest, I'd rather everybody else have a chance to discuss. And if there's anything I feel like I can add to the discussion, I will. But I would love for you guys to be able to talk through that first, if you don't mind.
Jay Cox?
Pass for right now, you can come back to me later.
Dave?
Is there a thought about, and I know we talked about this, I believe, briefly last time, about what the parking situation would look like? Are we getting enough of the lot split that would allow for parking?
Good question. Let me bring it back to the. For these uses here, we would treat those as retail. I think we're one space per 500 square foot. Pretty low, but we could come in higher. We likely would have to for the space of this nature. We anticipate having on-street parking when the streets are complete, both Broad and Orange and South Lake Avenue. And I think we have a picture here that demonstrates some parking in the back that Avalon would be building in tandem with the project. This would provide parking for not only the train depot, but some of the businesses that would be adjacent to the urban plaza.
And then this would be solely owned by the city of Groveland, and then we may work with different partners like the Historical Society or other vendors for, like, what is the vision for it on the running? It would be part of the Parks Department, and we would just use it like we do this building or Lake David?
Yeah, as part of the citywide reorg, facilities are now in tandem with our Parks Department. So the leasing, the actual facilities, maintenance and operations, all that would be handled by the Parks and Facilities Department, much like they operate the existing facilities today. You would just have different uses.
And then there's no timetable for or no time restraint once we take over this property after the lot split. It could be 2 years before we have the funding to develop it. It could be 6 years. There's no timetable on it.
There is, time is of the essence once we accept the property per the agreement. It's probably best that I just bring that up and we look at that in the meeting and read it verbatim. I think the section in the middle, the train depot must be deeded to the city within 60 days of the final plat. Additionally, the developer will convey any necessary access and maintenance easements for the benefit of the train depot. The historic train depot will remain in its existing location unless approved by City Council and the Community Redevelopment Agency to be moved. An agreed upon location between the developer and the city during the design of the development plans, provided the city obtains funding. The city will refurbish the train depot prior to completion of construction and issuance of a certificate of occupancy or of any building within the project.
City has not refurbished the train depot or an agreement with the developer has not been entered into prior completion. So basically, the developer could take it back.
If we don't act by the time of that essentially clawback on their end, yeah, there's a risk if the city takes the property and we don't act within that given time frame, they have the ability to take the property back. And just speaking from the developer's perspective, if they're making a large-scale investment in the area, they're just trying to make sure that there's follow-through and it doesn't just sit there in that condition for the foreseeable future or in perpetuity.
I guess our attorney would tell us what is considered refurbished. If it's, I'm guessing it's not that full $2 million, it would be the original structure within that, correct?
Correct. Ross, if you're going to speak, just come up to the podium and.
Also, can I say thank you to Jason for getting up and giving that presentation? And also thank you.
Ross, if you could mention your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Ross Halley. My address, is that what you said? 13205 Sharswood Circle, Orlando, Florida, 32828. Can you put up the first site plan that you had up first? Keep going with the first one. Yeah. So if you look at this plan, the light blue in the center is what the agreement is based, right? We don't really know what we're looking at when we did the agreement. So we said the building plus 10 feet around. That's the lighter square in the middle overlapping the larger area. The larger blue area is what seems reasonable to dedicate when we think about the space, when we think about this being contemplating as an initial phase, creating that plaza. So what we're proposing is to dedicate more than what the agreement is, which is that back half and, well, everything else other than that light blue. So to your question, if we were to dedicate all of that, we would certainly want to see the plaza developed in conjunction with the rest of the development. You know, the back building, let's say the addition is less important, but we wouldn't just want this vacant space in front. So, you know, if it gets to sort of what should we develop because there's a constraint on the city's behalf, then I would say then let's just deed the light square blue so you're not consumed about more than what's there. But the point being is if we decide and we all agree upon dedicating more than what the agreement says, we would want to see all of it improved based on those dates. Now, those dates are all tied to the completion of the bypass. Well, to the start of the bypass and the completion of the bypass. So assuming FDOT stays on schedule, this really needs to be completed, I think, 2 years after the completion of the bypass. So we're talking several years from now, but I just want to be clear on, you know, if we only dedicate the light square, that's less to have to, and then I think that goes to your point, all that would be obligated under the language of that agreement is to improve that light square. If we dedicate greater, we'd want to see that happen, but I think those details will obviously, you know, we'll sit down and talk about upon the dedication and see who does what, how it gets done. But I think what's most important is that we make it meaningful. So a building in the middle of grass is less meaningful. We certainly would like to be partners in making the rest of the first phase plaza happen. And if it looks a little bit different than that map, I think it's okay. That's all I wanted to say.
It's a nice looking plan. It still sounds like we're years away from seeing anything come to fruition, so I know plans can change in shorter times than that, so hopefully it looks something like what was presented this evening.
I kind of want to know what the cons are to having the developer do it, like, especially with time constraints and whatnot. Like, you said there's pros and cons. What are some of the cons?
One of the cons specifically, if you look at the agreement, it provides an open space credit. So you could see, I think it's about 17 developable acres roughly, Ross. So 17 acres times 15% open space for the town category, it's about 2.5 acres roughly. If you take the restored train depot and the quarter-acre finished plaza, you're substituting quantity for quality. So you're looking about at a quarter-acre with an executed, complete, restored train depot, and you're losing about 2 acres of additional open space types that would be built as part of that overall 17-acre development. That's how it's set up today.
Okay.
We would have to, if anything changed from that, that would have to be baked into the new agreement.
But that's
there
the
are
main
some other
drawback.
cons that we talked about in terms of construction costs. Sometimes there's benefits in terms of saving sales tax when the city is buying materials and things of that nature. But sometimes if it's a private development, it tends to move faster, so time is a little bit quicker there in terms of the construction process. But there's also some other tax credits that could be applied to the project. Again, we would need some time to vet those options, but those are just back in the napkin analysis at this point.
The developer's not that incentivized to do it. Like the park, that amount of park is not that value. Where we think the benefit is, we make a great plaza and a catalyst and a great space for the community, and therefore we want to be a part of it. But I'm not so sure we just on ourselves, right? We're here, the first thing that we heard when we came to the city of Groveland through the landowners was, can you give us the train station? We said, yes, we'll work on giving you the train station. Last year I got a call from somebody at the city saying, will you dedicate the train station? We said, absolutely. That was last January. We've been asked now for 3 years to dedicate a train station. We just want to dedicate the land and then work with you all to get it done.
Okay.
But if that means, to Tim's point, there's a fit. We both do what we do well. The city does things great, and the public sector does things differently than the private, but we each do things particularly well in what we do. So to partner, I think, will create the most efficiency. So if it comes to where I think there is cost savings for the private sector to do it, absolutely we should partner to do it. But by itself, I don't think you're going to find, forget us, the landowner saying, all right, here's the $2 million to do this. So I think it really needs to look at collectively, and then you all being the owner, but it is, I think it's the best thing that could happen for our project, but there's so much history with it and it ends up being the city's project, that I just want to make sure that we're all cautious in what we do and how we do it and the obligations we set upon doing it. So that said, I don't know what the pros and cons are other than we just want to dedicate it to you all because you've been asking it for 4 years. That's it. So I'd be surprised if after this meeting I heard, you know what, the city says we don't want it. Because that's all we've heard for 4 years, is this is what the city wants. So that's kind of what we're doing.
And then what is the likelihood that we can find grant money to do that?
I'd be extremely optimistic. I know Chief Carroll, when he restored the cemetery, great story, great project. I think about all the people who got involved in that. When he took the assignment, I remember the email that Mr. Hines sent out to all of senior leadership to say who would sign up for that. Do you know how much budget he was assigned for that cemetery restoration?
$0.
$0. He had nothing from the general fund, any funds from the city at that point. But as he met people, as he talked about the historic significance of the site, the money flowed. Nothing against the cemetery, but I feel like this site is probably the most historic significant site in all of Groveland for many different reasons. In terms of getting appropriations requests with the state, we've submitted those. The main feedback we received at the time is you don't own the property. They can't really give grant money for us to develop something on a property that we don't have ownership of. And there's a lot of other historic preservation grants and things of that nature. A $2, even $3 million budget, I would be very optimistic about us getting funding opportunities for it.
Okay, thank you. Good.
I think it would be helpful for those that are visual people at the next CRA meeting if there was a chart showing the advantages and disadvantages of the city doing it versus the developer doing it. So I don't know if I need to get a consensus or what I need to do to ask that a chart be done, again, outlining the advantages and disadvantages of the city versus the developer. Jason, would you move this so I can talk to the committee people? Would you move that so I can talk to the committee? Thank you. I can't see them all. Thank you so much. I want to give heartfelt thanks to the committee for the work that you all have done regarding the, well, not the birthing, but the inception of restoration of the train station. Was there an eatery included in the old train station? Something to eat, like when you went to the train station?
Not that I'm aware of, no, ma'am.
Okay. And will the public be given an opportunity to provide input as to what should also be included? I mean, you all have built the foundation and done an outstanding job with that. But will John Smith on Neptune Drive be able to give recommendations and all those be taken collectively and brought before you all?
We're always open to feedback. We could garner that feedback, but at the end of the day, city council will make a final determination on what those uses would be.
I get that, but so let me go another route then. Is there another?
I could maybe answer, sorry.
Go ahead.
I could maybe answer to some of that. So when I'm in the museum, I always tell people, just the other day I had people come from New York just to come see the train depot. And so they're asking what's going to be there, and so we talk and have discussions. So everybody I meet that I talk to about it, I do get input. And so some of them local, some of them, like I said, all the way from New York coming here. So I get opinions from everybody that I talk to. And the general consensus is they just want something for the community, for kids to be able to go there, and just a family-friendly environment where the whole family can kind of come there, learn about the history, and like I said, kind of tie in the recreation. That's why we kind of tie in a little bit of everything that's available there, because that's kind of been the input we've been getting, so.
Okay, thank you. I am of the opinion, you guys have heard me say it before, none of us is as smart as all of us. Again, you guys have done a great job in building this foundation. And because none of us is as smart as all of us, we're always open to feedback, but we gotta feed to get the back. Okay, so how, I just ask that you give thought to it. The people coming in from New York, that's great, but how do we get the constituents citywide to provide input? Whether we use it or not, we take it under advisement.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just using the New York people as an example to show you how many people are interested in it. But like I said, people come, we have the second Fridays market, so we're always open, so people come in, we talk about it, and they do get their feedback and input, but we'd be willing to do like a survey at the museum, anything that the city would like for us to do, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Well, now, I can't speak for the city because I can't pay for it, but it's something to consider, okay? And my last question is, I got confused on the refurbishing. You said that there was a contractor or a builder who was an expert in restructuring or doing the restoration. Okay, has that builder, developer, construction person, whatever, already been assigned? I just want to know if there was competition. That's really what I want to know, being a business person. Was there any competition?
He's a friend of the family, so my family, so we just invited him to participate in the focus group, and he volunteered his time to do it, so.
It's a volunteer effort at this point. We made it evident to him that if this property is owned by the city and we go through the construction process, we'll have to go through an RFP competitive procurement process. Takes some time, but that would give the opportunity for other general contractors to make a bid.
Well, you can't be free, but Sierra, make sure you put that in the minutes, okay? All right, thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Dan, did you want me to come back to you? No?
Well, I can go, that's fine. First of all, I've really enjoyed the time that I've spent with the team and the partnership we built with the Historic Society, so thank you guys for allowing me into that conversation and our time with Ross and kind of understanding what their goals are for the place that they're trying to make. You know, it's, I think, probably no less than 10 hours worth of meetings so far that we've done. And I'm sure there's even a lot more conversations going on in the background that are brought to those meetings. So a ton of time has gone into this and a ton of effort. So thank you, everybody who's been putting that in. For the timeline, and I'll just get this right off the bat, I think there's still probably, you know, I told Tim before we went into this and discussed with the team, like, there's so many details that still need to be worked out. The idea is this doesn't go to the board, it doesn't go to council without a business plan. Like, this has to work, and it has to be a clear path to success. My personal, you know, going back and forth between, you know, this being a historic restoration or this being a rebuild strictly for commercial use, there's definitely two different sides to that. As far as the cost goes, obviously cost increases with historic preservation. It's not just make it look the same, it's use the same materials, same methods. Like, there's a lot of strict rules that go into historic preservation, but there's a lot more grants available for that. So when I think of, you know, when we have further discussion in, you know, this goes beyond the deeding the property and all those conversations that are coming up next, but when we have to figure out what's plausible, we have to figure out what is the city's budget for something like this. What money do we have? Because then that money can be leveraged towards grants, right? It can be leveraged to say, hey, this is, because clearly that money has to be earmarked, right? You can't go apply for a grant if that money's not sitting in an account available for that grant. So, you know, I think that my personal opinion, it's not about getting to the finish line as fast as possible. It's about doing it the right way. You know, and obviously there's a lot of discussion that still has to happen as far as that time frame, because at least the way it's written, and you guys, both your points you made, I think it's still vague, and it shouldn't be vague. You know, my personal thought when we're talking about restoration, it's the single building. Now, what's the worth of the building if you don't have the plaza in front of it? Clearly, like, you would want the plaza as well. That needs to come alongside of it. You know, we don't want a restored train depot with trucks parking in front of it overnight. So to me, that's a no-brainer no matter what. But we would still probably need time to extend that second portion in the back. So that business plan, coming up with what funds are available from the city that we can leverage, and is this something that we could do in 3 years or something we could do in 7 years? Either way, it just has to be done right. I lean more on the side of historic preservation. I think that's what makes it special. The site that it's on, Jason explained the historic, you know, relevance of where it's at and what that represents as far as Groveland's economic history. And, you know, we were a powerhouse and we want to get back to that. And this is one of those things that represent that, you know, that, I guess, passion to be big and to do things well. So that's my opinion on that. As far as, I think I had one other thing. So for the open space credit, I've been vocal already. I don't really, you know, for one, I think the city should be the one who owns the property. I think we should be the one who puts in the effort. And doing it this way also gives us the ability to involve the community. I think the community can be involved, the historic depot, they can be involved, even financially. There's ways for this to happen. So I don't want to box the society out. I don't want to box out people in the community who want to contribute financially or through services to a legacy project like this. So I highly suggest, at least from my opinion, it really needs to be something that's the city is owning. The other side of it is, I think, the 2 acres that would have to be given up as far as open space credit. It's 2 acres of permeable land from a stormwater retention and all of that. I don't think two acres of permeable property be given up and say it doesn't have to be open space is a pretty big impact on that area. So I have probably 1 or 2 more things. We already talked about public input. You know, I'm extremely excited about this project, but I think financially, if we don't have a good business plan, it won't work. It won't, like, we have to have the money. but I think there's a lot of grants out there. And, for me personally, just from, again, personal perspective, I've been in Groveland for 5 years. That probably is the longest I've ever lived anywhere. I've moved about 25 times in my life. I came to Groveland, I joined the CRA, I'm building a business here because this is the place I want to live, and placemaking is important to me personally, but it's because I'm trying to contribute to being in a city that values these kind of things. And I think that's, wherever we go with this project, that's what should be kept in mind, because I think anybody who supports this project probably feels the same way, that they want a legacy. They want to create something that matters. Downtown is, if you have a historic building or you do something over at Cherry Lake and it's the estates at Cherry Lake, it's Cherry Lake, right? If you go create a project that is a place people want to go hang out by the new Bright Hill development, it's the Bright Hill Commons, right? But this is downtown Groveland. Downtown is the only thing that belongs to everybody in this city. So I think having a project like this, it's not just about it being a legacy project. It's not just about being historic. It's about creating a place that people in all of Groveland can call their own. So that's all.
Thank you. Now I'd like to just, again, compliment everybody for, this is far more than I expected, and it's very much
Mr. Mayor?
appreciated.
Can I give a little input?
No, you already did yours. He didn't do mine. Now I can do mine, okay?
Well,
This is
you
what's
like,
around.
you like doing it last, that's
Hold
all.
on, hold on.
Okay.
You just come back, dude. Okay, and what I really like about it is the design. It kind of reminds me of the French Market on Decatur in New Orleans, right? Where you have the shops on one side and the farmer's market on the other. It's very nicely done. Just help me visualize things on this picture we have before us right now. We have what is now 19, right, coming down in the trail. Is the light blue the old train station? Because it looks like it's set back quite a bit further from the right-of-way that exists now. I know where the right-of-way exists because I put some political signs there, and it's pretty close to the...
It's close, but that black line, the yellow that you see is right-of-way that currently FDOT owns. Part of it's going to be used for the trail, part of it for, the street renovation. But the realignment goes north of this site. What you do see in that very pale blue, so there's two blues if you can't see it.
Right, I can see it.
Right, there's the plaza space, and it covers the additional building in the back to, again, match up with what used to be there. And then there's that blue inside the blue that's really only for that existing building that you see out there today with a 10-foot access around it.
Okay, very, very good. I understand that. And just help me out one more time. The yellow, when you say the black line on the yellow, is it the one that's east or the one that's west, the black line?
It's east of the building.
So everything in that yellow is right away?
Correct.
Okay. With this, can we go to the pricing,
Construction
what we
costs?
want to do with it? Just some things that you can clean up for me. No, that's not the one. Let's go to the capacity, I guess. Well, we can just, I don't need to bring the slide back, but the $2 million only takes the light blue, right? It doesn't take the...
It's for the whole site.
Huh?
It's for the existing structure, but then also the addition in the back and the site. So it's everything that you see in the blue that we captured.
How much is that a square foot? I'm just...
It's about a quarter of an acre.
No, how much are you allocating per square foot to build that? I saw a lot of square footage there.
We'll go back to the construction costs.
Maybe Ross can help us out what a price per square foot for commercial is now.
The building construction costs, again, it excluded any site work, so it was only the buildings. And that was just over 1.1 million. And then the square footage total... I could go through the process of adding these up and
It's okay.
doing public
We don't
math,
need to take
but
everybody.
we could come back to you on that.
Yeah, don't, just send it to me. On the square footage, while we're here, the rail car serves 150. Is that per day or per hour, or that's the size of the seating? I've had a rail cars in
Say 150
Las,
seems like a
in Las
lot.
Vegas, and they didn't seat 150 servings a day. And how long is this open? Well, okay, so if we're open for 12 hours, 8 to 8, is that, so you're talking, what, 15 people an hour? Again, remember, we need the business model, is what we said we'd like to take a look at, the business model, because I don't know how you could, well, Dan could tell us how many people you got to serve an hour in order to pay the rent.
I would say this is pretty granular. These are all those things. I mean, even look, I get what you're saying, because looking at the capacity, these numbers don't match up as far as, they're not the same number, right? Serving 150 people a day and then having a capacity of 120 people for the banquet hall are not the same metric. So that's stuff that we would clean up. But all that stuff has to be laid out in a business plan, very clear as far as where is this money? Because in my personal opinion, this depot needs to be paid for up front, right? So anything on business plan as far as revenue creating activities, that's on top of what we have to already account for to build the building. So and that's a lot of the discussion we had was, we're not getting this to say, hey, pay up front now, let's figure it out later. No, it's how do we get the money and how do we build? And then this stuff creates revenue.
I would agree with you on the train station, but I don't know about all the outbuildings.
What, all the outbuildings?
Yeah.
Well, there aren't, the only thing we're looking at here is, now if you're talking about the deck and the.
No, the outbuildings, phase 2, phase 3.
Those buildings are the multi-use buildings that Avalon will be building.
And is that in the $2 million?
No.
That's what I was asking.
No.
Yeah, the rail car kitchen was not included as to 2 million. And I think I mentioned that as we went through these uses. That would be an incremental addition at a later date.
In the phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3, the phase 2 and phase 3 are the outbuildings, right? How much is that?
Phase 2 and phase 3 are mixed-use buildings that we'd build at a later time. So that budget is based on the blue area we'd be dedicating. It's the building that's sitting there. The other, that was $300,000, $800,000 to build the building behind it, and the rest was to develop the plaza in the blue. The terracotta buildings are not in that. And then the brick area in front of those terracotta buildings that expand the plaza is also not in that.
Okay, are you building those terracottas buildings, or is the city building those terracotta buildings?
No, those are future development. No, the city, well, if you want to buy the land, you're welcome to build them.
You'll finance, so I don't have to worry about that.
Oh, I would love you to worry about it, but that's not what we're here for.
Okay, thank you so much. That makes a big difference. Is it done in municipal government where you put together a Ways and Means Committee that can figure out and really drill down on the cost? And I like there's grants out there, but we should know who those grants are, and if Winter Park got grants, what was that grant? And we need to have a little bit more stay. Is there a committee that we could have called a Ways and Means that we could go and really drill down on it?
Yeah, I think that can be a city committee or a CRA committee that you can task with obtaining more information.
Excellent,
Or
excellent.
task staff with it. It's up to the board.
Could I just reiterate something?
If he really wants to do it.
I just want to reiterate that this is, again, when we showed up to Groveland, everyone was concerned about the train station and asked, could we dedicate it? I know there's a lot of details about it. We're simply here, I'm simply here, we'd like to conceptualize this project. If you all want the train station, we're here and ready to dedicate it. If you don't want to take the dedication because all these details, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation that shows a lot about the challenges we're going to have to move the rest of the project forward. So I want to tell you, Mayor, because we've had a lot of conversations, and I know you weren't part of the team that got us here, but we're committed to Groveland and the things we've said. But if the things we're asked for, we can't even get done, like, hey, dedicate us a train station. Okay, here, we're dedicating you the train station. If we can't get past that, that will be a challenge for us. So I sure hope that after tonight's meeting, you, the board, and the city can figure out, wow, the developer's going to dedicate the train station, we should take it. If the city can't figure out how to take the train station everybody's asked for, we have a lot of other hurdles that are going to be challenging to overcome. So I hope we can overcome the developer wanting to dedicate the train station to the city.
And I appreciate those words, but I know you very well, and I know that you would probably want to know that there's money there before you take over the property. And all I'm asking is that we have a ways and means to make sure there's that funding is available. We have $500,000 right now that the city has put into the pot, but that's a long way from two. I hear, and I've heard before about there's grants and there's this and that, and the last thing I want to do is take over the train station and have it sitting there for 2 years while we're trying to figure it out. We need to figure it out.
But I think you have the time.
What's that?
You have the time to figure it out. I mean, right, it's tied to the road. The road hasn't even started. I would encourage you to take the train station, figure it out, and if you don't, then, like we said, we can take it back. There's the option to take it back. I would encourage you to take the train station, the land we're willing to give you, and figure it out. And if then you can't, let's have a conversation about the hurdles. But it's like surprising some of the comments about that we don't want to take this land. You don't know if you don't have the money. I think from what I understand, until you actually have the land, it's hard to have some of those conversations. So I just encourage you to take the land, dive into it, see what money you can get, and if in 5 years it didn't happen and we're close to COing, then let's sit back down and figure out what we can do. But I can tell you, we have no desire to knock it down. We have a desire to preserve it. We have a desire to work together, and through that, we have a desire to dedicate it to you so we can get it started.
I appreciate that. But with all that said, we need to know there's a path to get to the money. And we need to know it, and that path could take us to more, or it could take us to less. And I think I came out just in time to hear somebody say we need to know what the money is in order so we can plan to it. So that's all the comments I have, and I'm not afraid of losing the train station because it's there until 2031 or 2 when the bypass goes through, right? I mean, nobody can do anything with it.
Our deadline for the incentive agreement is tied to and we're not. But hypothetically, if we started tomorrow.
Yeah, I know, and you could, based on that. I appreciate that. I appreciate your side of it, but please try to appreciate mine. And I know that you could build any building over there you want, phase 1, not the whole thing. And that's when the clock starts, or that's when we have to have it done by. So if you wanted to put a tool shed out there according to that contract, when that's finished and you get a CO for that, it goes back. So back to our guys. Next steps.
Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to make a quick request possibly. He's not a member of the focus group, but he is a volunteer with the museum, and he has to go to school in the morning. But he's very passionate about this, and he came here tonight to speak, and so I was just wondering if he could speak as part of the volunteer.
I didn't know
if that'd be possible.
Sure, go ahead. Come on up if you've got to go to school tomorrow. Thank you, Ross.
Hello, I am Dorian Givens, two-time essay winner contest of Groveland. Now, I want to just come here and talk about how and why we should preserve the train station. Because whenever I think of a museum, I think about, history, how a place got to the way it should be. And I think getting rid of the train station would just get rid of all of that stuff. That, and if anyone did want to see the train station in the future, they wouldn't be able to because it would be gone. I also think that a museum, also another word that I think of whenever I think of a museum is is historical preservation. And the train station is one of, if not the main reason that Groveland came to how it is now. If we were to get rid of that, the historical preservation would be gone, and no one would be able to see the train station, and it would be really sad. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can tell how passionate you are. I don't think anybody in this whole room is talking about getting rid of the train station. It's just how do we do the best job that we can moving forward. So can we go to next steps?
Bear with me. Here we go.
Okay, can we put in here in your next steps, I really would like to bring it back through the attorney how to get a Ways and Means committee together. They would have to have some kind of knowledge of grants. They would have to have some kind of knowledge of business and put that together. I charge you with that. I mean, if you want to use some of the people we have or let them keep working on the aesthetics, but we need some people. I'm kind of looking over here on my left side too that maybe should be involved in that Ways and Means committee to really get a concrete or at least lines on the highway so we know what it's really going to be. Okay. Can we,
Mr. Chair, just if I'm getting consensus on next steps, where would you number that as part of this flow?
I number it right now.
Number 1?
Yeah. And there's not, I mean, I have a whole list that I'm going to give you tonight of stormwater grants and all that I called up and places to go and seek them out. I'm sure there's the same thing for this historic side, and somebody needs to drill down on that and really make sure that it's there. Did you still need to say something else? Okay, go ahead.
First I want to say Wilson Island. Wilson Island's our priority right now for money. We shouldn't be looking to do money in any other place. We're talking, the historical building is 1,038 square feet. That's still existing right now, Tim?
Existing, yes.
Okay. If we do this, the city has to work on a timeline. It's not its own. The city doesn't have a very good record working on its own timeline, let alone something that's, you know, that's pushed by somebody else. So I'm very worried that the city would even think about restoring that train depot on somebody else's timeline. Again, money. Every time I've talked about money, every time we've talked about grants, we've always been told that we need to participate in it. So if we have to participate in this, about 50%, like we've been told just on everything else that we've gone up to ask, that's $1 million. $1 million is one full millage rate that we'd have to increase the taxes by to pay for that $1 million. There is an option, and Tim, can you bring up that slide with the options? Now, in this option, it says the developer will restore the train depot for us for no cost with the city and then give it back to the city. Am I is that wrong?
No, they're going to charge the city.
Tim, are they going to charge the city to do that?
No, it gives them the opportunity to restore it before they deed it to the city. It does mention the open space credit, and that's one of the things. You would lose potentially some open space types. I think at the end of the day, once stormwater requirements are there, there's going to be some open space, but it wouldn't necessarily be a park-like 2 acres. It doesn't necessarily say that the city will pay for it, but again, it's a negotiation that the city would have to do again with the developer.
Okay, so I really think that we should try to flesh out that idea that the developer restores this and gets that credit, and we don't have to come up with any money.
Pretty sure he just said they didn't want to.
We'll flesh that idea out. I mean, There's ongoing things. There's a lot of cash that the city owes the developer based on the contract, and there's a lot of ways we can approach this, but I think right now we need to take it for what it is, and everything else is kind of add-ons and things like that. We need a ways and means. What different ways besides grants? If we want everybody involved, are there fundraisers? What are all the different ways that we feel, absent them kicking in, that we can get this thing going? And at what point that Ways and Means Committee should tell us when we get to be 80% or 75%, we can flip the switch, right? Because we know that we can get there. We have $1.5 million left to raise because we've already dedicated $500,000 to the project.
Okay, well, maybe we can, put a fundraiser out there, have the whole public come in?
That's what we want a committee for. Let them look at if you give the people, the citizens, the chance to put stuff in, this is what we get back. Whether it's this or the strategic plan or anything else, the best stuff we've got out came from the citizens up, because there's ownership. The last thing I want to do is say, Ways Committee, go find me a way to have a fundraiser. Let them figure it out.
Okay, the last thing is, if the developer restores the train station, we get the additional part of the train station done at the same time, plus the plaza. He gives us all that space instead of the 0.25 acres that we're responsible to do right now? Is that correct, Tim?
Instead of 2.5 acres of open space types being provided by the developer, they would provide you with the 1/4 acre with the restored train depot.
And they can build on that 2.5, and how many more apartments do you want on 19? I don't want to get into that because we got traffic already. I want a Ways and Means Committee to figure out how we can make the money. I have no problem, and it's just me, I'm only one of this group, but I would have no problem if we had a certain amount of funds coming in and we knew we were going to get there to go ahead and click it on. My biggest, and I know they want to get rid of it for, that's fine, but it's going to stay there until we figure it out. And we need to figure it out. And then if we say, we took the train station, I'll tell you, I've been down this road and you're getting ready to go down this road. I take it in November. Next June, it's when is that going to be done? Next February, when is that going to be done? Next August, when is that going to be done? We have to have the funding and the timeline so that we can tell our constituents, our citizens, this is what we're doing, this is how long it's going to take, this is how we're going to get there. We have conceptual stuff here, and there's a big step between concept and reality, and we've got to start taking those steps. And if I'm just throwing out a Ways and Means, somebody that can concentrate just on that part of it is my idea, but I'm sure that we have more ideas.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. I think a committee is a good idea, but I think the first step is to get the property. You're not going to get any grants if you don't own the property. And a lot of grants want you to have it in your CIP too, or at least they plan to put it in before they will even consider your application. And there's a lot of organizations that can be applied to, but it seems to me there's very little issue with the city taking the land now. And if it ends up not doing something, the developer can claw it back later. But at least that gives you the impetus to start applying for grants. So the city's been trying to get this property for a very long time. I understand the fiscal concerns of taking that property, but the building's only deteriorating. It's not going to get better.
It won't get any better until we have funding. It'll still keep
And you can't get funding
deteriorating.
until you get the property.
Well, I would say that I would love to see in a business plan who's out there that we can get it from. How much did Winter Park get for theirs? We're using other facilities. Right now, it's Chief Carroll got this much and he had no money, and that's where he got it, and that's nowhere near $2 million or $1.5 million or even $1 million. We need to outline it because we've been down roads before, where concept and reality are so far apart that the concept never reaches fruition.
I understand.
And so that's the only, that's my last input. Yes?
I just want to clear up, I asked what the cons were to have the developer do it, because I was mostly curious if that means that we essentially forfeit creative control. That's where I was going with that. Would that be true? And then would we only get that light blue square versus the whole thing if we had them do it?
No, the conversation that I've had with Ross is looking at the whole thing.
Okay.
I firmly believe he's dedicated to making the whole thing that he's presented. Keep in mind, he's presented all the materials in terms of potential site plan layout, the 3D model website.
Right.
He even offered virtual goggles to bring to this meeting. I knew we would have issues just playing the video on the screen, so I didn't bring the virtual goggles.
Right.
But there's a lot of...
I do think the committee, there is a huge benefit to the community doing it ourselves, and to the city being involved, and to the people being involved. So that's all. I'm good. Go ahead. Find out how much it cost. Do it.
Yes, sir.
This was just for information only, correct? There's nothing further.
It's discussion only, yeah, just information to discussion. There's not really a hard decision at this point. I do personally see value in having Avalon, if they're volunteering to do the survey work and pay for that and prepare a lot split, just so that the lot is there for our taking when we're ready for it. I would likely move ahead on having them do that, but just not deeding the property until the council makes a firm decision on that.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with moving forward with a lot split. For applying for grants, we do need skin in the game. Part of that could be the property itself. So the money that we're going to put in, but also the value of the land is also looked at in grants as your skin in the game, or your 50%, depending on what grant we're applying for.
Mr. Mayor, are you looking for a consensus to set up that committee?
No, this is just a discussion.
Okay, well, don't you want something flushed out for the next meeting about the possibility of making that committee?
I think the vice mayor is going to ask for consensus on something. I know that if I give advice and this council gives advice to go find a Ways and Means Committee, do I need consensus to ask you to do that?
It would be more powerful if I go to the city manager and say the CRA board asked for consensus on this item versus having it from an individual.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Let's start with your consensus vote, please.
Me?
Yeah.
Let me just say first that all the glitters ain't necessarily gold. Okay, I guess you would have to kind of know the backstory. And if you probably knew all the backstory, you would know that everything that glitters ain't gold. Is this report time?
No, this is your consensus. You wanted to have consensus to have a board up to show the different things. Remember, you asked for a little while ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. We can do it.
All right, I would like a consensus that that the next meeting, that there be a large enough graph where people can see the advantages of and disadvantages of the city maintaining the train depot versus the developer doing it.
Or that would be outside versus developer building it, right? Is that what we're saying? Because they're asking to build it and we have the other, and what's the difference between? Is that?
I want to know overall, what are the advantages and disadvantages if the city keeps it and does it? And the advantages and disadvantages if the developer does it. Because I don't want us to get into a trap of any sort or a misunderstanding or miscommunication. Well, you didn't say this, then we can do that. So in all you get an understanding, and please come back with a graphic that's easy to read that we can understand advantages versus disadvantages. Can I get a consensus?
Can we add his committee on this, that they flesh out the availability or the legal position about establishing that committee, the ways and means?
Well, I don't want somebody to say yes on one and no on another, not give them the chance.
Okay.
So there's two different things, okay? So go ahead, consensus?
Yes.
Yes, Dan?
I would say nay, and the only reason is this is a preliminary discussion. We don't have a business plan. I'm all about the ways and means. It would be very hard to define the benefits, the pros and cons, given that finances it's not even beginning the discussion. So that's the only reason I'm saying I do agree that it should be clearly laid out, but it should be clearly laid out when we have all that information and on paper, in writing, that it's clearly laid out as well, because as I stated before, there's still some vagueness in there. So I think it would be hard to do that. So that's the only reason. I agree that it should be clearly laid out, but it's got to be in writing and it's got to be, it can't be vague.
What? Yes, you're good?
I'm good, but I don't think that should come at the next meeting simply because we won't have all the facts yet. So I think that needs to come and it needs to happen, but it needs to happen in the right timeline when we actually have all the details, I guess. So ways and means first.
So is it yes, or is it no, or
If
is
she'll
it
change
somewhere in
it to
between?
taking it off the next meeting, then yes. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to say no.
Okay, so,
So that's up to Barbara. No, go ahead.
no, Matt.
Has the developer actually indicated they're interested in doing it on their side? Because from what I heard tonight and their eagerness to offload the property, I kind of highly doubt that. So I don't want to waste staff time on something that we haven't had a clear indication that they're at least willing to participate in. So at this time, my answer would be no.
And I'd like to flesh that out more concisely on exactly what, because there's too much room for interpretation, and we still might not get what I think you want. And so let's talk about it and flesh it out. So for right now, I'm going to say no on that one. On the ways and, yeah, Steve is on your side. Okay, so Ways and Means Committee, consensus vote on putting that Ways and Means Committee together with the directive to research grant opportunities, research other ways that we as a city think that we can raise dollars for that particular item, and to flush out the costs. That's the Ways and Means.
Aye.
Aye. Would this be staff run or volunteer run?
Staff run.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. I didn't understand the clarification. You said staff run, or is this?
Staff run. So we have a staff member, they have to have a staff member there.
Okay, but it's still volunteers from the community.
Yeah, we'll get business people in, but if we don't put staff in there, we're not going to have the leads.
Yeah, it's hard to get it regularly. I'm in favor of it, yes.
What is the consent? Would you repeat it one more time?
Yes, we need to establish a Ways and Means Committee.
Okay, yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. So that's an affirmative. You have that now. And before moving on, thank you, everybody. But I would like to have the committee and the Ways and Means Committee go through the financial aspects of this contract. Because what we have here is one paragraph, and I think that that's going to open up some very different ways to look at where money is and how it can be obtained. Is that fair? Okay. Okay, that's it.
Could you open public comment?
Oh, public comment. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. It's all right. I wanted to
I
catch you
thought it
before
was
you
just a
bang your gavel.
discussion. Yeah.
I've put together some thoughts, and I appreciate you all being here tonight as late as we are. We thought this would be short and sweet. But I wanted to bring up the fact that our current comp plan policy 1.45 says that the CRA is to rehabilitate or adaptively reuse existing structure in the city's redevelopment area. Part of that priority is of adapted reuse of historic structures is to be used in a manner that will preserve historic value. It should be given a priority, and that's policy 1.47. Your current draft of your future land use 8A comp plan that we all looked at together last week mentions specifically the potential Avalon Park development, including the former train station. The Florida Department of Historical Resources master file has the Groveland Train Depot listed as relevant to Florida history. Historical tourism in Florida points to a thriving community of history enthusiasts. There is also an estimated 100 to 200,000 rail fans in Florida alone. And I've been working with Mr. Phil Cross, who is a huge rail fan and involved with the Winter Garden Train Depot and all the things that they've done in the past 20 years. So he's volunteered to offer his services in any way he can help as well, going through files and history that they have from the Historic Railroad Committee. Not to mention the fact that we've talked about premium events, whether they be weddings, classrooms, trainings, workshops, field trip uses. Capacity is possible and could add to cultural event programming incentives and interactive education, moving future together like debates, role-playing, and connecting personal stories to make history more relatable. I don't know if any of you have ever heard Mr. Clinton Lowe's conversation about his dad ordering a coon hound from the Sears Roebuck catalog and him being a 6-year-old boy and going with his dad and picking up the coon hound off the train. So that's 5 generations deep, over 100 years old, older than the city. So Robin Maynard Harris said it the other night, land that holds more than just history, it holds memories, and that's where the train depot is today. I've lived in this city 21 and a half years, and I have people ask all the time about the train depot for the past 20 plus years. I can pull up hundreds of comments on Facebook pages alone, 10 years, 15 years, 2 years. It doesn't matter the duration, the conversation is always there. On that note, we are talking about events, histories, rails, trails, food and beverage, which are all multi-billion-dollar revenues yearly in the state of Florida alone. But guess what? If we do this, where are they going to stay? That's another conversation for another time still, right? But I thought I'd bring it up. So this project fosters a distinct, attractive, walkable neighborhood while strengthening and directing development towards an existing historic community in the heart of downtown Groveland. The city grew around that central point, the historic depot. This is one potential path forward for the concept that has regional appeal, built-in community brand recognition, and a strong foundation. Now, we did tour that. We were in the train depot. I have photos. I will send them to anybody. Believe it or not, it's actually in pretty solid condition. It looks much better on the inside than it does on the outside. Considering that code enforcement is supposed to be our #1 to work for historic preservation and blight, we haven't done that for ourselves in the past 20 years of the train depot, #1. So, of course, it's going to get worse before it gets better because it's never gotten better. That being said, one of the other things that I've already looked up and I'll share with you right now are special grant categories. So the state has a special category grant that the Department of State Division of Historical Resources provides state funding for historic preservation. The purpose of this program is to provide funding to assist major local, regional, and statewide efforts to preserve significant historic and archaeological resources, to assist major archaeological excavations for research projects, and to assist the development and fabrication of major museum exhibits that will promote knowledge and appreciation of the history of Florida. The program does not fund operational support for historic preservation organizations. This program provides historic preservation grants on a competitive basis. The legislature determines the amount appropriated annually for the program, and funding for all eligible applications is not guaranteed. The special category guidelines specify program policies and procedures. The Historic Preservation Grants Program utilizes an online grant system which prospective applicants submit their application from previous solicitation periods are also available for requests. So public entities such as counties, municipalities, school districts, states, colleges, and universities are all applicant eligible. Agencies of state government and nonprofit organizations are eligible applicant organizations as well. So if you own the building, you could apply for your grants, and if you, the council, chose to make it the City of Groveland's museum, along with our fire and police museum, because Chief Merrill was one of the longest acting chiefs of police in the United States. So we're not just the history of Groveland, we're also the police and fire museum as well.
Thank you. Can we bring this to a close, please?
But yeah, absolutely. But there are multiple grants involved because of having a nonprofit involved with the city lending. So there's several different types of project types.
Okay, let's bring it
for
to a
those
close,
preservations
okay?
as well.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Bring it to a close. Thank you.
But
And all those, this, give it to, that will go to the Ways and Means Committee. I appreciate that.
yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
But, and I'll hand this to Sierra.
Thank you. Next public comment?
Further public comment.
No more public comment. Okay, so we have concluded that, that section, and we'll move on to reports of the board. Board reports, board reports.
Robin, can you please send me the pictures from inside the train depot, please? Thank you. That's it. No report.
They can take you over there. Look at it. Go ahead.
Nobody takes me anywhere.
Previously, the CRA board had retained the appointment for authorization for the CRA manager. But since then, the responsibility was delegated to the city manager. I am asking that the restoration of the appointment of the CRA manager be given back to the council, and that we are able to do public recruitment and council-led appointment. In summary, just let me say that I am asking for the next meeting, the next CRA meeting, that we have on the agenda the restoration of the appointment authority back to the CRA board. I'd like to ask that that be done so that we can discuss it.
We'll need a consensus to put it on the agenda. So is there a consensus to put that on the agenda? Matt?
Can I have clarification? You're talking about, do we not have the authority to appoint our own manager now? Because maybe we just haven't given staff the direction that we want to appoint our own manager.
I think we asked at a workshop and were told we didn't.
If we don't, I'm okay talking about it, yes.
Yes, we can talk about it.
Yes.
I didn't know we had that capability in the past.
Yes.
We can talk about it.
Yes, also. Okay.
All right.
Next agenda.
All right.
Is it done? Steve? Dan?
As I guess this is probably the first time I'm seeing a lot of you guys in the last round of many, many meetings that the council and a lot of the staff has gone through. So it's about 14 hours of meetings. I did the math when I listened to all of them. So just so you guys know, obviously I'm tied up with a project that timing is extremely important. But I have been a part virtually in every single one of these meetings through the comp plan, strategic plan, and all these workshops that you guys have gone through. So I appreciate your guys' time and your input. It's given me a ton of insight into the kind of priorities that is for everybody, right? That's what we're here to do, is to understand the priority for the city and for the staff.
When's your opening date?
We're really close.
Don't ask that
I just submitted some stuff for final inspection, so
Yeah.
we are very close.
Let us
yes.
know. Let us know.
We are very close. So I just wanted to thank everybody for their input because, again, it's been very educational for me. I'm not there, but virtually I have been. So I just kind of want to give everybody, I guess, my mind and what I'm trying to learn more and what I'm trying to understand through other cities and other different organizations and how they approach community redevelopment. So I met with Betsy and from Lake Economic Area Development Group today. I know her and Tim have spoken before. She's excited to meet you as well. I think including these people in these conversations is extremely important. Like Councilwoman Gaines, we're never smarter than all of us, right? And what we need people like this person, Betsy, right, who has been in this industry for a very long time and is now in public-private partnership conversations. These are the people we need at the table. These are the people we need in committees. So I would continue to encourage staff to listen to them and council to partner with them because, again, these people, they have a lot of information that we don't. I also went down to the Lakeland Farmers Market this past Saturday. Lakeland is a great example of a city that has done redevelopment very well. And at what I did not know and found there, met the CRA manager who was at a booth, and they had documentation as far as capital improvement projects, and they had an economic development partner with them there. They had their version of Ashley, I'll just say that, their community outreach staff. So I would say I think that's a really cool idea. I know I already mentioned it to Tim, but I think that if, I don't know if it really needs a consensus, but I would highly recommend that we get out there and really present this CRA. If people know what a CRA is, there'll be more at this meeting, right? We understand the impact that this board and the staff has on the future of the city. I think we need to educate our public around it. So that was a cool opportunity to do that. So as far as that goes, I think pretty sure that's all I had. I have one other statement. So I understand that infrastructure is the most important thing. I get that, and it should be. So I want to make that clear that a lot of the things that I discuss tend to be on a smaller standpoint, and because these are the things that I'm super passionate about. However, if your roof is leaking and you got to save for a new roof for the next 3 years, you don't not replace your air filters. If you've got a well pump and you got, water filters, you still have to do that. You still pay for your Netflix subscription, right? There are things that are luxuries. There are things that are small projects that can be accomplished in a short amount of time while still focusing on the bigger picture and how we build infrastructure. So understand that everything I've heard from everybody in these last 16 hours of meetings you guys have done, I completely agree that infrastructure should be the most important thing. The most money should go to that. However, you can't ignore the small things that can make big impacts, right? Do the next small thing while saving for the big one, so that's all I got.
I guess we just need to define what small is.
Yeah, eat that frog.
Yeah. Last meeting, you asked for to be put on the agenda, Groveland Community Market. Remember, of course, it stated that the market was not working. You wanted to have something on the agenda?
I did. It was more requests from staff if they felt like that was a priority. I wasn't necessarily looking for consensus if we do want that. I'm definitely down to move forward with that. I think we need a place, maybe if it's just once a month, for local producers and artisans to sell. And I think it's to be something where the city has some skin in the game on that. So
you want it put back on the agenda?
Sure. Okay. I would love to. I would like a consensus to bring to. I would say, let's say 2 meetings, because we've got a lot to talk about for the next meeting as well. So 2 meetings from now, I would like a consensus to bring to the board a discussion around how the city can be involved in starting a once-a-month farmers market.
And you were going to tell us what we did right and what we did wrong, right? So
absolutely, I'll share. And there is no such thing as a failure if you learn from it.
That's why I read it, so we don't make a trip over ourselves a second time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would like that consensus if we'd like to take that.
Consensus? Yes. Consensus? Yes. Oh, yes. Unanimous consensus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, that's me. I would like a consensus. In our war report, that there's the financials are in there now, and it does compare last year, actual this year's, and all that. Is there any way there's just 2 pages in there that are CRA, that the CRA can get these 2 pages that has the CRA budget and where we are and all that. And I don't know if you can do it monthly, but at least by quarter, that everybody can understand where exactly we are, because we do a lot of things in the dark. I think when you see what we've got and what's out there and what our liabilities are, it's going to add a lot more deep conversation.
Mayor, didn't the city manager just send that email that he was going to cancel the whole report?
But still, the financials are there. He's not canceling the financials.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
That's, you know, I did copies yesterday.
Okay.
They're canceling. Okay.
I'm in favor, that's fine.
Yes.
Perfect. That's all I have. Thank you. City Attorney?
No report.
Thank you. Gone.
Because you forgot Tim.
I'm used to seeing you over here. Tim?
No report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Tim, adjourn.
Good work.